item then will be public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Do you have any speaker cards? No, I don't. Okay. I'll twist it up here. Next item is informal project reviews.
We completely ripped that native daughters adobe. And so what we're doing now is just removing some of the plaster that was not the right kind. It didn't have the right consistency. It had latex in it, and it cracked. And so we have several spots that we have to do. So I'm here to ask whether we can call that a maintenance problem, or if we have to go for full minor application, because it's just, we're not changing colors, we're not putting on new material, except the more modern way to restore adobe. This adobe is the only one that a parlor owns in the whole state of California. And we have never asked help from state people since they helped us build that part and restore the front part. So, and we are out looking for funds. But we intend to start in June when the weather clears, and Christopher Ingram Plastering Company from Carmel Valley since 1886. And they're involved in all of the missions in our area right now, doing some work with Gilbert Sanchez, who is the foremost historic architect. Rudy attended the meeting at which we were. All of us, the committee, the architect, the plastering company representative, and so he knows what the scope of the work is. So, I can answer some questions if you think you need more information than that Rudy would be able to give.
Board members? Any
Well, I
questions?
think it sounds to me like it's more just maintenance and repair of a building that we want to stand up for. If you go for a public hearing, it can be approved, modified, or denied. And we don't want that. So I figure if it's just strictly maintenance, it's going to look the same as when it should have been before the damage. I'm happy with being maintenance.
And the key to it is that if her maintenance meets the design guidelines, which is restoring it back to the original condition, then it says it doesn't need HR review. But if it doesn't meet it, then it'll come to you.
Right. It sounds like maintenance to me.
That sounds good to us.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you have Gil Sanchez working with you, and you have,
Yes, he was
I mean,
here
you're in better
after-
hands
He
than,
was here after the '89 earthquake and supervised a lot of things too, so he was familiar with the building when he came this time, as a favor, because he's retired.
are there only certain areas then that are compromised, or?
They describe about 30 inches up will need new plaster to make it look, the original plaster you will notice is ripply, the original after the earthquake, which causes more problems than it is not supposed to be lived in because it holds rain, now that we're having rain again. So, and the damage was not as extensive as our horrors
feared.
Oh my God, what if they have to do something with the foundation? None of that's going to happen. The good news was the adobe was dry, but the plaster needs to come off.
Okay, so the plaster was used with cement probably. And see, when the old adobes were lime, and apparently it breathes. That's the problem we have with the mission. In the 70s, they end up using some cement, which doesn't breathe, and they kept the moisture in the back, and the new water coming down helps to melt it. But using straight lime, I guess it breathes and it less problems.
Yeah, so we think we have experts on board. We almost have all of the money we need for the bid. And so if, with your suggestion that it's only a maintenance, I'll take that information back to the Native Daughters and they will be thrilled.
I think that's
I came tonight to make sure that when the general public sees us working on that Adobe, they know we have gone through the city's process and gotten good advice. So thank you.
Thank you for being a good steward, and thank you for being transparent. Okay, we'll move on then to action items. We have affidavit of posting agenda, which I think we'll take all three separately.
I move that we approve the affidavit of posting of the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay. I guess we need a roll call.
Okay, Board Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Koch?
Aye.
Board Member Medeiros?
Aye.
Board Member Gretasoff?
Aye.
Chairman Guevara?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay. Item B, consider historic downtown streetscape guidelines and recommend adoption by the Planning Commission. We've met a couple of times to discuss a new set of guidelines, the San Juan Bautista Historic Downtown Streetscape Guidelines. And at our March 23rd meeting, a special meeting, we finalized the document and decided to bring it forward to this meeting to approve and recommend adoption. And then one more thing we probably need to discuss is where. We decided to put it in the design guidelines, but now we need to decide where. So is there anything amiss? I did a footer. I revised the footer, but it only revised, you only see the revision in the footer on the first page, but the whole thing has been revised. So my thought was regarding placement that it might become item 7, and then we'd move the sign guidelines down to item 8 and move the glossary down to item 9.
Let's see. Sign guidelines.
Trish, where did you find this copy, or where did you access this information?
The table of contents, Roger.
Your binder?
From the design guidelines
Because
index.
on the internet, when you go to planning and you click on, it's just, the only thing under design guidelines is chapter 7, the sign ordinance.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I notified Connie, but I don't know if she was
Yeah.
there today. Okay, so
But,
what do you think?
That would be appropriate to designate it 7 and then 8, and then the glossary of terms would be 9.
Does anyone from the public want to speak on this? Okay, then, board members, what do you want to do?
I move we adopt the revised guide or the new guidelines for streetscapes, and
where's it going to go?
as approved, and put it following section 6.0, make it 7.0, and the sign guidelines would be 8.0, and the glossary would be 9.0.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go
Such
ahead.
enthusiasm.
No.
I'll second it.
Emily,
Thank
yes.
you.
I insist.
You can third it.
Board Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Koch?
Aye.
Board Member Medeiros?
Aye.
Board Member Gretasoff?
Aye.
Chairman Guevara?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Way to go.
Okay,
Way to
very
go,
good.
team.
The next item, C, consider public structure and residential structure to recognize during Preservation Month. Ever since 2012, so for the last, this will be the 5th year, in order to celebrate National Preservation Month in May, we've honored a public structure downtown that has made significant improvements in such a way that it didn't compromise the integrity of the building. One year we did Ponzini's, another year we did the Mission Clocks, we did Vertigo, we did the La Calavera at La Jardina's. And this year, we're going to do not only a public structure, but also a residential structure. So I am going to nominate a public structure, but commissioners, do you like the word structure, or would you rather have building?
Building sounds nice.
I think building
Building,
too.
yeah.
Okay. And are you okay with public versus residential? Is that, I was going to go with commercial,
So
but
what would that entail? If it's not so if it's residential, it'd be just homes that people live in?
yeah, and public would be any structure that people go in and out of. The reason I did it that way is because my nomination is for Glad Tidings Church, which
Oh.
is not commercial.
Uh-huh.
So, and I'll explain my reasoning.
Well, it's a house of God, that makes it residential.
Oh, now let me see if I can find. Okay, so when I was doing the then and now in October, I did then and now of the Glad Tidings Church, and I realized how much it's improved over the years. And so we have a resolution, and I'm just going to read the fourth resolution and then include my justification. So whereas the Planning Commission wishes to recognize, it says business owner. I have to change that.
That's okay. You have to write a new one anyway.
Okay, a business owner whose project reflects the city's goals to maintain its historical ambiance by preserving and rehabilitating the structure at 499 3rd Street. And then my reasonings, using an attractive two-toned color palette to accentuate the building's architectural features, preserving the character-defining features of this Greek revival-style church, maintaining a welcoming and inviting appearance to one of the gateways to the nationally registered historic downtown district, designing and building an accessory structure in a style and scale that is compatible with the surrounding area, extending the economic life of the building, and modeling responsible stewardship of an historic building. So that's my recommendation.
It goes properly in public buildings. This is public assembly
Yeah.
versus public license.
Yeah. So, do you
Is
want
there
to
any other
accept that?
nominations?
I didn't, no.
I can live with that because I see that he has cleaned it up. See, I'm looking for the fact that you have to have done something. The fact that it's been there for a long time is one thing, but the fact that you have done something, painting, for instance, extends its life. New roof extends its life. Keeping the garden beautiful brings people wanting to see it. And so I think he's met all those and then some.
That's it?
And this is for the residential
This
recommendation?
is for the public,
Public.
Public,
the
okay.
public building. Pardon me? The both,
Buildings on
oh,
that
yeah,
side
yeah.
covered.
Both the church and the accessory building are open to the public, so. Does anyone object?
Let's see, this is, okay, yeah, we can choose it now. Yeah, that's right, we choose it this month and we deliver it next month.
It's becoming more and more difficult to choose a public building. We've done several good ones. Do you have a comment? Okay.
Jan
Oh.
Jensen, 1149 First Street. On this topic, I just want to state, at some point, hopefully, the Lavanino barn will be considered a historic landmark. It's over 200 years old, and we're about to lose the front section of that ranch. And I think in some way we should honor that ranch for its historic
Yeah.
properties.
Well, I've been thinking of nominating it to the National Register.
Yeah, so I don't know what, I just,
Yeah, and for
Yeah.
this purpose, I don't think it would meet the requirements because...
no, I just didn't want it to get lost
I understand,
in the
yeah,
shuffle.
I understand
About
that.
to.
And I appreciate what you're saying, thank you. And I might talk to you more about that because I agree that it should be recognized. It's
And also in the event that they do say they paint it up and clean it up for a community center or something like that for the shop, for their subdivision, that would be a significant improvement over what exists. And that would bring it closer to meeting the requirements that we have kind of set forth informally for this kind of a thing.
I probably should also include a disclaimer about the fact that it's a church of God, a church of worship. I don't go to that church, but I'm recognizing it as a public building for that only.
That's all it takes.
So,
I don't have a problem with it.
okay. Then let's vote on it. or move to approve, or whatever we do?
I go by consensus unless somebody
Okay.
wants to object or something.
Okay. All right.
Why was I asked to look for all these things the other day?
You were doing the residential.
Just residential, is
Yeah.
that what you're, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
You
Just-
did a very good job, by the way.
Well,
You did a very
that
thorough
remains
job.
to be seen.
David took pictures of,
Oh, that's next.
I don't know how many old buildings.
Yeah,
well,
is that coming up tonight?
That's next.
that's
You're
next.
next.
Oh,
You're up-
okay.
You're up next, David.
I'm not too sure where we're
Oh,
at.
okay, so we'll close this one then. We have selected
Yeah.
Glad Tidings Church to receive.
So this is public and not home,
What you're doing is
Residential.
residential.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the first time we're doing residential, so
for a minute there I thought.
all that work for nothing?
I know.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, because I kind of agree with the Glad Tidings Church to begin with in the first place. So we're going to vote on that now?
I think like by consensus, we agreed that.
consensus.
Oh, consensus, okay.
If there was no objection, so I figure consensus is quicker than a full vote.
Okay.
Easier on a secretary.
So now, what conclusion?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
What have you done?
Yeah. Well, anyway, I thought I could use the computer to show everybody that I went actually and visited from the outside, not the interior or anything like that, of about 120 some homes here in San Juan Bautista, and took photographs of them. And out of those photographs, I selected 15 of them that I thought was worthy of some kind of recognition and consideration. And I was thinking that doing 120 of them, selecting 15 of them, maybe we could, if that's okay today, if we could find the top 5 or something like that, and decide which one we want to go with, that kind of a thing. And I may have not taken the right picture of the right building, you might say. So if there's anything you see tonight from me that doesn't exist in any of the photos that I've taken, don't hesitate to come forward and let us know what was the oversight on my part. So I don't know if the computer's going to be working right now, is it?
I had to make a comment before you start.
Yeah.
Commissioner Madero's project here, I went through all the pictures, and granted, we had houses that were looking good, that have been good since they were built, and some houses that were much older, that were maintained, like I said, paint, gardens, etc. And it really got me thinking about what San Juan is all about. Because you start looking at that and say, wait a minute, these are the things we want to preserve. What kind of an incentive could we use to get people to do what some of these folks have done? Clean up the yards, plant some gardens, paint the houses, whatever. But just the more shine we have on all our buildings, the more people are going to want to come and see it. And that's what we want, people to come to San Juan and visit other things as well.
And I think our property owners, our residential property owners, are doing a very good job with maintaining their homes, landscaping. I can't say the same about the commercial district. And we can talk about that later. But are we still waiting for this? Did you give it the 2 hours it needs?
Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but I thought it was something to say.
Let me bring this with me. Do you have a handout? I gave you a handout we can show the public. We can hand it out. Oh, you want to show that? Okay. Pass it around.
Wow.
Take a close-up look or something. Again, these are 15. In this package here, there are 15 items that I chose that I thought were worthy of recognition. Perhaps
We got to get you on that.
5 of those within those 15 would be the top 5. That's what I'm
Send
considering.
out 120.
And
Yeah, I got that.
We got it. Okay.
They're all great
You know,
homes.
something like this, I don't know.
They
That's
haven't
gotta
done
be
much.
60, 70 years.
That
But
was
if they did-
Stephen Levanino's home.
But if they did, my God,
No,
that'd be beautiful.
that's all been there.
Yeah, but I mean, if they, did something to.
Yeah,
to increase it.
they're working on landscaping.
It's been sitting there, so-
Yeah, and this is the Breen house, I think, the Breen Adobe. They've done something, and the Yellow House has done something. There's a lot to choose from.
I love this. This is one on Monterey Street, right?
Yeah.
I love
Isn't this
that
Dave's
house.
house?
I'm sorry?
It's Dave's house.
It's his neighbor, his relative, cousin, yeah.
Wait a minute.
This is nice.
That's the schoolhouse. That's what I like. I know
Oh, I didn't know it was a schoolhouse. But I mean, it's been maintained.
Yeah.
Look at the yard.
The yard, it's so, and it's on the gateway too, from the north.
I mean, this is what you want. You come in there and see a good-looking town.
And it's still, it's a kind of a smallish house on a big lot, like,
But yeah, you go to Oakland or big cities, you go through the jungle to get to.
yeah. Wow.
But this, I mean, the first thing I'd do would be to trim the yard, the trees, so I could see the house.
Yeah.
I love that house.
It's beautiful inside,
See,
too.
this is nice, it's modern, but it's not historic.
Yeah.
I want it to be 50 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that may be 50 years old, but we've got so much more to choose from.
Oh, this one here? Okay, yeah. Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's just for right now. Okay, what I'm going to do, it looks like the screen's not going to work. I'm going to slide my laptop over
It wasn't
here,
warm enough? Or was it?
and I'm going to start the slideshow, which is really, I think you get a chance to see of all the different selections that I made as far as the town was concerned and the homes, the residents that we have here. So let me get out of here.
Yeah, I'm glad we started this.
Well, that goes there. Is
Amazing
we
we've
want
been
to
doing it 5
restart
years.
researching.
The residential, yeah. That's,
I can do it for next year. Let's get a good article in there.
I don't like
well,
her
we had
choices.
one last year. Oh, beforehand?
Pushing.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
Say,
Say,
look,
you know.
or maybe
Yeah, yeah.
2 months early. Say, look, we're looking for good houses. What have you done?
Yeah. Submit, yeah.
Submit, and then we
We'll
can look
consider you,
anyway.
yeah.
Everybody say, hey, look what I did.
I'm embarrassed I didn't give you more choices, but there's slim pickings.
Okay, here we go. If you notice that there's an X on one of the photos, that's the same one of the 15 that I selected.
Are there
So
just
go
15
kinda
here?
fast. There's a lot of them. And there's some duplicates in there. Oops. There's some duplicates in there. That's better?
This is the Rowena Meeks Abdi house. She was an artist.
Don't be surprised
She
if I
designed
see
this house
a
and that's
couple
what
of the
came
same things here.
for and built
Okay,
it.
I'm not going to talk about addresses. I'm not going to talk about family names or anything. Just look at the photos, see what you think. Hopefully I've covered just about everybody's thoughts about what they would like to pick if there was anyone resident.
Did
that
you
would like
submit
to
something?
select.
Did you submit something? Oh,
I've been swamped.
okay.
Been a little preoccupied.
I'd look at
Yeah.
I'd look at the pictures.
Yeah.
I did have a bunch of them.
That's one of the 15. Not this one.
What are those are the ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been looking at
Wow. How long have you lived in, you've lived here a long time?
It's only just 8 months, but I grew up in Aromas.
Okay. So are you married into the Koch family or is Koch your maiden name or?
My maiden name.
Okay. So you're related to the farm? Yeah.
That makes me the newest guy here. My
think
10th
so.
year.
That's the home that I first rented when my wife and I got married.
I've been here for
$50 a month
only been here.
We don't know what that is.
on 3rd Street. Yeah. And we moved out because they raised it up to 75. I bought a home for, I think it was 16,000.
Well,
That was recently renovated.
this one was renovated during my tenure,
Added on to it.
but I think the schoolhouse was done in the 70s, which gives it this more further back.
That was our judge, the only judge we had here in town for a while there, Ed Lamb, that was his home, that we, the one previous. That was a Patella home, believe it or not. The deal of the family.
I thought you were going to name names.
That's my favorite one right there, that's my number one.
We can't see. What are you talking about?
Need a mirror in the back.
I think it's gone through these already. That's on 2nd Street. There's some other homes that.
My dad was on the Nyland Range, over there by where the school's at.
Sometimes this program has a tendency to skip. I mean, it doesn't use all the selection for some reason I have to complain. We started with.
Yeah.
It started over here.
Huh? Yeah. They just
Okay,
have
right on the
croquet
corner,
and
yeah.
I'm not sure I got
Third
Sunday.
Street where the speed bump is.
I wonder if you saw these homes too. Let me show you.
start here?
Have you seen this new book?
Did you see this one already?
Oh, you mentioned it.
Yeah. Hot off
You
the
did?
press.
Okay.
He's 95. George Abbey.
Okay, let's see beyond that. Let's see if we go beyond that. Saw that one too? No. Okay, there we go. No, I thought we missed some already.
Yeah, a lot of it's wrong.
Alameda?
When the mission's finished, we can nominate them.
My grandchildren can. It's a long project. The history of a lot of local
Yeah.
pictures.
Well, these are Larry Gabrant's photos here. Real Light Gallery. I bent this as I came in.
Repeating itself again.
He is a brilliant artist.
He is. He really. Sometimes his photos are a little too touched, you know. But
Have you seen this picture of, if you've been to the
And
mission
I've seen the commissioners not seen any of this,
Yeah.
so.
You've seen this
But they've already
picture.
been,
Yeah.
I've already shared these with the commissioners, by the way. So if you're wondering, I think the ones that you probably didn't see yet. See if I know. I think, yeah, here we go. I don't know why it does that. Maybe it's just a computer. Did you see the one that's on Adobe? Oh, yeah. It shouldn't, I hope it's on Adobe. It's a, what do you call it? Fixer-upper?
Arrested Decay.
There's a candidate there. That's one of the 15 that I chose. And by the way, I would say that 95% of them have all been somehow been renovated or fixed or what have you. But their character pretty much the same as they were originally built. Notice the picket fence is pretty popular in town. There's another one of my choices right there. I like these little homes, there's a set of 3 of them on Jefferson. There's a fixer-upper. I had a high school buddy of mine who used to live there. That's on 3rd Street. It used to be the Versailles.
They did a nice job on that.
Yeah. Big house for that time period. There's a fixer-upper. I shouldn't watch, be careful what I say about. That used to be, I don't know if anybody knows, Rose Lab. A person by the name of Rose Lab used to steer her home. I think that's repeated itself again. And you didn't get to see the fixer-upper, huh? Let me see if I can get that going here.
Can we take a guess at what it is?
Let's see, where is it? Maybe it's not in here. Oh, yeah, this is, you probably didn't see that one either. I don't know why. Where'd it go? Did you, you didn't get to see this one, did you? Come on. That's the Christopher Ranch. And you have to see this one. That's a home I grew up in. And it was completely restored. The only home, probably one of the homes that has a restored tank house too. That was actually used in its day. Used to have a pump right here, a windmill pump. Long time ago. What was the other thing? I think that's pretty much it. You got any questions?
Comments?
Any questions from the public? Or?
Preferences?
Pardon me?
Cara, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we ought to read that letter or the note from Cara, which has some excellent ideas and choices to select from.
I really enjoyed seeing all your photos. They're beautiful. And it looks like many of the homes are really well maintained.
Yeah, I'd like to say that all the homes that I've seen, all the years I've been here, and I'm very familiar with them, to me they're all very beautiful.
Yeah.
And they are typical of so many other cities that grew up in California.
Yeah.
And that, as far as different periods, like from the 1930s to the present day, typically we have residential homes still existing here in San Juan Bautista, which is typical of all of California in its heyday, different times.
Yeah, it's a really good representation of the different styles.
Wide diversity.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to make a selection, but I think when you do, I think you should try to acknowledge somebody who's done a restoration job according to the Secretary of the Interior standards. And one of the ones that I recommended, which happens to be across the street from us on the corner of Jefferson and 3rd, that was the doctor's office and clinic.
The Craft Home?
This one?
That one, yeah. It's more of a Victorian, I think. But they completely stripped the entire house down to the bare wood, and it was white before. And I think they did a beautiful job selecting the paint colors, and it really brightened the downtown area. And I made some other suggestions, but whatever you decide, I'm sure the homeowners will be thrilled, and it'd be a nice gesture.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to make a recommendation? Okay. Lorraine, do you have a preference, a choice, a comment?
I voted on 3. I responded to David's email. Two of them are in here. One is the very last one at 1111 First Street.
Oh, yeah, 111, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, that's my choice, too.
And then another one, the other one is, I forget the exact address, but it's like...
Oh, that's Marenta's house on Monterey.
Marenta's house, yeah. Beautiful.
I just thought their yards were really well kept,
Yeah.
and the exterior of the house as well maintained.
When I was... Eric, go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, this one here at 1111, I mean, that one is... it's gorgeous. I mean, they're all nice. Let's be very clear. But
I know it's difficult.
It can be difficult. But that one there, it just looks right.
Well, this
Looks like
one
they've done a nice job.
was done in the 70s. When I was reviewing them, I was kind of thinking of who... Yes, there are a lot that have been done recently, but this one was done in the 70s, and I think they've done a nice job maintaining it. And the yard is still representative of the old yards where the house was not that big, but they had a large yard because they did some vegetable growing. And
Yeah, and the cement doesn't really take away from it, but
Yeah.
it gives it, it's kind of nice that they put it in as if it was a driveway. And
Yeah.
it kind of goes back in time, which is a nice touch to it. A lot of consideration. in
Marenta's
doing
house
that.
garden is beautiful, too. That house, I think, was done in the 80s. The Kefauver's did it in the 80s, do you think, Georgiana? And then, let's see, who had it? Oh, Gilsonen. Anne. She did some renovation before the Kefauver's, I think.
And she's the one who got it on the national register.
Yeah, that's right. It's a nationally registered house, too. And all of our records indicate that this was probably the school, but we can't verify for certain, but in all likelihood, it was the school.
I went through the
Ernest.
pictures. Again, one of my things is that I want houses to shine and be seen to be able to attract like bees to flowers for honey. I'm looking for an older house because those are the ones that are going to be let go first, demolished first, or run down first. I want to see something that's been done. It's an improvement, not just sitting there, ready to fall over. I concur with the Secretary of the Interior standards. I think there should be a way of making sure it's going to stand. And I'm looking for continuously maintained. Not just that they did it in the 70s and beautiful and went to hell in a handbasket, but it has been continually maintained, again, to shine in San Juan Bautista and attract people. Like the Morentis house, every time I pass by that, I am impressed. I am truly impressed. It wasn't available for sale, unfortunately, but I would love to have had it. So yeah, and my pick, even before I got here, was 1111. I just like that house. It seems to be just old, it's been maintained, and it just looks great all around.
It's
I
old,
like too
it's
the-
old, it's been restored a while ago and still maintained.
And their paint choices enhance the architectural details of the house, and it is on a gateway too, just as the Glad Tidings is. So if you're coming off the freeway from the north, driving to town, you're going to see this pretty straight away. But there are a lot of choices, and David, you did a fabulous job. And just for the records, it's great to have what you've done. When we did the Historic Resources Inventory in 2005, a photograph was taken of every building, but these are gorgeous.
Good. And I was thinking maybe whoever wins the prize, I might give them
That's
a
a great
photocopy of
great
framed.
That'd be great. Did you want to add anything else to the other choices?
Well,
or-
I think the experience that it took me about 3 days to get this whole thing done, as far as to my liking anyway. But and I've been here for so many years, of course, all my life, and every time I see these buildings for what they are, how they've gone through the changes over the years, through my lifetime and what have you, they always feel new to me. Like they've just been put up, and regardless of what state they're in. But my criteria was, when I was looking at all these, was the importance they were to San Juan Bautista. And I think these homes here, I want to show some recognition regardless. This is highlight it for the public and for the commission here, just to demonstrate and show off what a beautiful time we have when it comes to residential homes. And I think it also presents a model and a template for any new development comes along, that we have a good template to start with. And because of the variety that we have here in San Juan, that is typical of San Juan Bautista. That's something that needs to be thought of when we start to continue to develop new homes here in San Juan Bautista.
I think this house, the Lovett House, was a model for some of the Creek Bridge homes. I think one of my friends lives in one of these homes. So you're right; they're exemplary.
And it's good. I have being a professional photographer. I go off and I get to keep this in my archive files as well, and I get to fool around with them. I do editing as far as that goes on some of the photographs that I did here, only because there were some signs in the way and stuff like that I thought that need to be removed, and I did that so you get a better view of the homes. But really, my thought was just to go in and capture just for what they are as they exist today, and I hope I did that in my photography.
You did a great job.
One thing that with the pictures, if we put the critical ones together, we could say, this is a text of San Juan architecture.
We used to have a picture, a poster, I thought, of the homes.
What's the point?
Do you remember, Georgiana? Yeah. We had a composite of various architectural styles. Yeah.
May I say something?
Please.
Feel free.
Thank you for continuing and expanding this whole idea of the month of May preservation throughout the whole city. This is really thrilling, David. This work is wonderful. Back to 1111, isn't that the little house now?
Yeah.
It's blue.
Blue.
Those old commissioners, if you would remember, when that was going to be repaired, Rick Morales came and got our revised or informal review. What he had, some of the keeping the characteristics and so forth. A lot of energy went into it before it was ever touched. So that's
great.
exactly what we've been working for all these years, so thank you.
Good
Thank
point,
you.
thank you.
But there's still, I think there's quite a few other homes that fits
Yeah,
that category
yeah,
too as
yeah.
well. And you know, there's been a lot of work done some of these homes. So it's hard. You know, maybe we can do something like this. Maybe we can do 1 or 2 homes. I don't know. Expand it even further. The thought was, you know, when you give recognition to the people who own the property and what have you, I think it really kind of enhances the fact that we appreciate what they've done for us.
Well, one thing to consider, though, with the Morentis house is the current owner isn't the one who did the renovations. So,
Yeah, that's true.
I guess we want to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, but has he maintained it from the time it was?
To the best.
See,
Yeah.
whoever did the work, that's one thing. Doesn't matter who owns it. From that point of fixing it up, was it maintained continuously? And that's what keeps the
Yeah.
system going.
Yeah, I like the home that I grew up in. Nothing's changed. Everything was tried. Go in there and fix things that needed to be fixed. Make sure it's stable. Make sure it's safe. And make sure it's still up to code and that kind of a thing, including, like, say, the tank house and what have you. So all that was renovated and done by professional people as well. So, although it wasn't my preference, but it's one of them.
No, my thought here was that this is the first time we've done the residential. Okay, next year we could involve more public input by, say, advertising it maybe 3 or 4 months ahead of time and letting people start cleaning up the house, submitting their house, say, look what we've done, we'd like to be considered, and then we'd have more people involved, more people doing something, and then we could have a broader section to vote from.
You could have neighborhood committees present their best homes out of their neighborhood.
And at that point, we could,
You know, and bring it here and decide maybe each community or each neighborhood has their favorite, and maybe they can deserve a recognition too as well.
Good. And like ultimately, we can go to a couple of houses a year.
I think those are valid points, but I don't want us to get away from the idea of preservation and maintaining the Secretary of the Interior standards.
But to me, preservation is whatever. I mean, not always you're going to keep the first nail you put in. Sometimes you have to remove that nail because it's no longer holding up anything. But at least it's preserving what was there in its original state as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of homes that fit that category. You know.
So do we have a winner?
Yeah, I think the 1-1 on my part.
Okay.
If everybody agrees on that
I think that's the consensus. So do you want me to write a resolution?
Would you please?
Okay.
Or
And
I
then,
can do it too if you want.
We'll have it ready for next meeting. And at that meeting, we'll just announce it at that meeting. And then they
This goes to
receive it
planning.
at City Council, no?
Or we go to the Planning Commission next. Or do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a little bit.
Okay, so it goes to Planning Commission. Planning Commission lists it, then, yeah, we go, yeah, that's right. Planning Commission takes action on the first Tuesday, and council, we do it at the council
Yeah.
meeting in front of the cameras. So for the commercial people, doing it in front of the cameras, that's additional exposure.
Yeah.
For the residents, I think people ought to know who's who in this town. Who's
So
really
I'll
making an
prepare.
effort to make San Juan shine.
And that we appreciate it.
More of appreciation for
Yeah.
what they've done.
We recognize that we
rather
appreciate
than
it.
just recognize them. But I'm sure, all the hard work that they put into it is kind of neat to show some appreciation there.
Okay, good effort. Thank you, David.
Okay.
All right,
My pleasure.
then we'll move on to item 5A, discuss update on brewery building.
Distillery?
Madam Chair and members of the historical there, we corresponded with Mr. Serta and told him that he had 10 days to submit us a request for a continuance, otherwise the building permit will be revoked.
Okay.
And so that went out, I think, Monday? Yeah, right. So he has 10 days, and if he doesn't respond by that, requesting, and then we can interface, both Rudy and I, with him, his intent to complete it and stuff like that. We know that he's going through some, not only family problems, but financial as well. But we felt that we had to give him a deadline so that he can either continue it or abandon it, and then maybe then we can start to encourage him to look for a new buyer that'll be willing to step up and finish it.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to 6A, comments from the Historic Resources Board. Let's start with you, David. Do you want to go? Any comments?
Comments? No.
Okay.
I said enough.
Ernest?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Good.
Greg? Eric?
Good.
Eric, Greg, Lorraine? Okay, good. That leaves me more time. We will be discussing in the Planning Commission the bylaws for the Planning Commission, and I just wanted to touch on the Historic Resources Board. And I was thinking maybe every January when we choose a new chair and vice chair that we could review this again. But as we are a certified local government, each commission member is required to attend at least one informational or educational meeting, seminar, workshop, or conference per year that pertains directly to the work and functions of the commission and would be approvable by the state. The certified local government regional workshops sponsored by the Office of Historic Preservation are important sources of information. The annual State Historic Preservation Conference generally provides special sessions devoted to the issues, objectives, and responsibilities of commissions. Commissions may also bring in professionals to provide training on site. I had Trish circulate to the commissioners some upcoming workshops. Many of them are fee-based and out of town, but others are online. There is one coming up on April 18th at the Presidio at the Golden Gate Club from 1 to 4. It's $20. That's not bad.
April 18th?
Neglected and abandoned buildings, which might be very interesting. CEQA, categorical exemptions and historical resources, and stakeholder education and outreach. Trish, should I send you this one to circulate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember reading
Okay.
that one.
The other one I
downloaded it and
Okay.
gave it to you. And that was, the reason is that it's right out there in Monterey in the Presidio.
Right.
No, this one's in San Francisco.
Oh, that's San Francisco?
Yeah, the
Yeah, right,
Presidio,
yeah.
yeah.
That's cool.
I got one email.
Did you get? Are you on the list there?
Because there's a webinar on, mid-May, I think it is?
There's one. There's one April. Oh, there's one tomorrow on CEQA. That's $60. There's one May.
There's two freebies.
Yeah, there's two freebies. April 12th, making it pay incentives for local governments, and on July 21st, where credit is due, historic tax credits in the Office of Historic Preservation. So you've all got that, and we should each do one per year. And then on my morning walk, I noticed that on 3rd Street, there had been a house that was in great need of repair, and every day we'd see more and more coming off. And then we saw the roof was gone, and now I have to ask what is happening, because it hasn't come before us.
They're raising the plate height to 10 feet, and then they're going to reconstruct the roof on it. So
Okay.
they had to yank the roof off, and then they're going up with the top plate 2 feet.
And have you approved their plans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should come to us because it's anything with even a new roof should go through design review. A new second, well, it's not a second story.
What are they raising the roof for?
They wanted a higher ceiling, and in fact, when we got into there was some ceilings that were 7'6", 8 foot, and soffitted and everything, and it was a hodgepodge of different things, and so they just ripped the whole thing off and go up 10 foot, and then they'll reconstruct the roof very similar in the same fashion.
Okay.
The similar or the same?
same pitch and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then the other one
Interesting.
I wondered about is, I think it's 14 Franklin Street. That's new construction. And
That's Drew Nobauer's, right? Yeah, right.
and you had said that it had been approved
Clear back in 207, and it went through the depression that we had, a recession,
yeah.
you know, and he kept it alive, and so it extended, and then finally he came about 8 months ago and says, now I think I'll build and it's a garage down below, office up above, and then one rental.
How many times can a permit be extended? How long is
how
a
long,
permit
yeah.
good for, and how many times can it be extended?
The reason, I guess, that it was extended was because of the recession that we went in 2007.
Understood.
And the state automatically extends tentative maps during that period. So we honored that for the building, the site and design building.
And it had undergone site design and review?
That's what he had said, that he got it back in 2007 or something like that. So,
Were you able to find the actual permits?
no, I haven't, because that was a section that was missing in the
Is it in the minutes?
codes. Yeah. You know.
Is it in the minutes for
I would
2007?
have to look.
Look, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can we?
Yeah.
And that would seem like an important thing to see if
Yeah.
it's at least reflected there.
When did you look for those?
Back in
Franklin.
back in 2006.
It's already been
2007.
framed.
Yeah, right before the
Okay.
It
the
had-
Yeah,
dot-com
the
crunch
applicant
hit.
should have brought his copy of the permit. I mean, that's it's pretty basic. It's like
Yeah.
carrying your...
And then the last comment I have is there's a new book, Stories of San Juan Bautista, written by George Abbey. He wrote about the 20s and 30s. He and his brother George, Frank, right, were mayors at one time. The Abbey family, Abbey Park. So it's very...
The father was there.
The father was, okay. It's very anecdotal, lots of fun little stories about life in San Juan. And the Historical Society has some copies, and the Welcome Center has some copies as well. And that does it for the historic resources.
I got one more
Okay.
item. When it comes to preservation, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Teaching Center here, they will be having a town hall meeting for the city of San Juan Bautista on discussing any updates of what's going on with the Mission San Juan Bautista Preservation Fund. So
Tomorrow?
if you have any questions about what's going on there, if you want to join up and help us with the fund, tomorrow night is a good time to come and join us at 7 o'clock in the Teaching Center.
That's
You
in
should-
conflict with the library, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, the library meeting's at
It's
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if I get a chance, I'll go to both. But tomorrow morning, I'm headed to Kalinga.
got a busy day. Thank you again, David, for all
You're
your work
welcome.
on this. And I'll pass the gavel to our chair of the Planning
Thank you.
Commission.
Okay, we're opening now a regular meeting of the San Juan Bautista Planning Commission. Tonight is April 5th, 2016. A roll call, please.
Vandy Bear,
Here.
David Maderas,
Here.
Eric Gretasoff,
Here.
Lorraine Coe,
Here?
Ernest Franco,
Here.
all present. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a ceremonial items, introduction and swearing in of Planning Commissioner Lorraine Koch. First of all, welcome to the San Juan Bautista Planning Commission as our newest member. We're glad you put your application in, and tell us who you are and why you want to do this.
Okay. My name is Lorraine Koch, and I've lived in San Juan Bautista for about 8 months. But I grew up in the area. I was born and raised in Aromas and spent a lot of time in San Juan Bautista as a child and throughout my life. My family owns a farm just at the foot of the mission, and it extends out to San Justo Road. So we've been in the community since I think it was 1989, I want to say, or 88. So I've been coming here for a really long time. I have a background in public policy and have worked for the federal government in Washington, D.C. for the Department of Agriculture for a few years. And so that was an interesting experience. But I thought it would be interesting now I work on my family's farm, and I thought it'd be interesting to get more involved in local sort of community based policymaking and really sometimes at the national level, I think it's hard to see what your work does, but I'm hoping that maybe at the local level it'll be more tangible and be more clear in terms of how this work affects the community that I live in. So I'm excited to participate, and I'm sure I have a lot to learn already. There's a lot to review, but I'm sure with several other experienced members, I'm sure I'll catch on hopefully soon. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up.
Now, swearing in, who's... Okay, Trish is the Deputy City Clerk as well as the designated Secretary of the Commission. I guess in this role she does these kind of odd jobs.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lorraine Koch,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will willfully and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We got you. That makes it official. You're one of us.
She gets the key to the washroom.
Okay, the next thing we have public comment. Anyone who would like to speak to the commission on an item that is not already on the agenda, now would be the time. If you have comments on something that is on the agenda, I would appreciate it if you'd hold it until that item comes up so the entire record will be together. And just limit your talks at this time to things you want to tell us, things you want to inform us of, things we should know about, things you'd like to see, how good a job we're doing, whatever. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak under those circumstances? There being none? Do you have any cards?
No, I don't have any cards.
Okay. The next thing we'll do is they have informal project reviews. This time is when a person can bring up an item informally with no fees, tell the commission what he or she or the company would like to do in San Juan Bautista and get some feedback. Not just from the commission, but from the public, because the public has the right to speak on this. And if the project is up, they want a 10-story pink building, and they get enough no's, they will probably go back to the architect and say, start again, or go someplace else. Do we have any informals?
Not that I'm aware of.
No. Okay. Consent items. The consent agenda is basic items. Ministerial, approving the affidavit of the posting of the agenda, approving the affidavits of posting of public hearing notices, and those two are required by state law. And then approve the minutes of the meeting of January 5, 2016. Are there any comments?
Could you please pull the minutes of January 5th? They were not in your packet, and we can continue those.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. How did I do that? Okay. So we have two items.
I'll move to approve items A and B together.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
These are the posting notices that everybody swore that they did.
Ready for the roll call? Commissioner Guevara?
Aye.
Commissioner Madera?
Aye.
Commissioner Grassoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Koch?
Aye.
Chairman Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, now we have public hearings. Again, this is a pretty well formatted operation. The first one is consider the amendment to the Municipal Code Rules and Regulations for Home Occupation Business Permit. We're looking to adopt a resolution of a categorical exemption under CEQA, and then to approve a recommendation recommending the City Council amend the Muni Code, the Rules and Regulations for Home Occupation Business Permits. Staff.
Okay, so we've been working on creating home occupation rules and amending them into the municipal code. We've done a couple workshops, I believe, and I think we've got it down to where we find it acceptable to go ahead and adopt it into the municipal code. So,
Commissioners, do you have any comments before we go public?
I do.
Got a couple,
Okay.
yeah, a couple of things within it.
All right. On page 2,
What number?
line 57, and forgive me if we've talked about this before, that no persons not residing on the premises may be employed at the site of the home occupation. So if this is a daycare, and if you have, let's say, 14 kids, don't you have to have more than one adult there?
No, the daycare I don't see as a business. We're picking this up. If daycare would automatically need a use permit, at which time the conditions would be.
So how would one know that? How would an applicant know that if they want to do daycare, they wouldn't be following this?
They need a use permit.
Okay, so that's just
Yeah, because it's identified further into this.
else. Okay.
Yeah,
Am I correct? It needs a use permit for daycare? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that way we, because I caught that too. It's you can't do this alone, and it endangers children if you don't have help. But the fact you take it out of a business and put it in
Okay.
a service and say, okay, if you're going to have this service in there, it takes the use permit, then a whole new set of regulations applies.
So following
I
on
think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just following on that comment. So under the section that says home occupations requiring a conditional use permit, one of the stipulations is use employing more than 2 persons off-site or on-site that reside off-site. And so it seems like those are,
What 2 lines are you on?
sorry, page 5, line...
No, the line number,
161?
151.
Or
I went to an
162?
awful lot to get him to use line numbers,
Yeah.
and Rudy's really gotten into it for me.
162, sorry.
162, use employee.
So this, I read it as if you're applying for a conditional use permit, you fit under these like these are conditions that, so, but back here it says no persons.
Yeah. So
Here
just
it
say,
says 2
You know-
persons.
yeah.
I tell you, one way to do this would be to take daycare out of this. It's
Well-
not really a home occupation.
But it's still a
It's
contradiction.
a use. It's
No.
used under its own.
Right, this is separate from daycare though. Just in general, the one says no persons not residing on the premises may be employed, and another
Right.
one says use employing more than 2 persons that reside off-site.
So what if you
So-
have 1 or 2?
Right,
No, the
so if
fact
you
one
have-
says you can't, the other one says for all the guys you got, which you shouldn't have.
Well,
Yes.
what it's saying is you can't have any, and over here it says get a conditional use permit if
If you
you're
have
if you're
2.
over 2, if you're 2 or more. What if you only have 1?
Right,
Then it is technically caught in limbo.
you're in a weird position.
Okay. God, we're catching these things all the time.
Well, it'll never be perfect, but
Yeah, but that one is.
Yeah,
I don't
that's-
want staff having to argue with people about something like
Can
that.
we just change that to employees, using employees,
Any employees.
using any employees that
Good.
reside
That reside
outside?
A home occupation is not some place where you employ people. A home occupation where you do your artwork, your music teaching, your whatever. If you want to employ people, you should be in a commercial zone. Maybe that's how we handle it.
Well, no, but
I picked up on the distinction between the two, but,
I'll listen.
I
I'll
mean,
listen.
well, yeah, when I read this, I saw that they were separate. They didn't speak to each other, but,
because it's under different categories.
yeah, because it's under a different category. But that, I mean, I think maybe we could change that a little bit so it doesn't seem to conflict.
you could simply state use employing any person that resides off-site,
Yes.
and that covers everybody
Any person.
that resides off-site, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
Use employing any person that resides off-site.
Right.
See, that's how we have a team here. That resides off-site. Okay.
I thought 8 and 10,
Line numbers.
Line numbers.
okay, page 2, line number 77. No garage or accessory building shall be altered or used in such a manner that would reduce the number of covered parking spaces required in the district in which it is located to facilitate a home occupation.
Right.
Then looking on the next page 3, line 84, the home occupation shall be confined completely to one room within the main dwelling and not within an accessory structure or garage. So you can't do it in
No?
an accessory structure or garage.
I would not allow, I would not support losing parking, but if they wanted to talk about an accessory building for storage, that would take a use permit. Then we can decide that on a case-by-case basis.
And I'm thinking, why not use a garage? I mean,
Because
you have a
it's
shop.
two cars. No.
Oh,
See,
Because
if you got
let's-
your shop, that's one thing, but if you're doing it for a business, that's what
Yeah.
this is all about.
Well, let's take an example. On the agenda tonight is a proposal for a new home with a one-car garage and only one parking spot in the driveway. So you take one out of the garage,
you put him on the
two
street.
people live there, you're going to be starting to put more and more.
And where are you going to park your trailer?
In your boat.
Well, I meant if you have a business that
Oh.
requires a trailer, where are you going to park that? Then you're going to have to put some cars out in the street.
So you wouldn't be allowed to
And
have
I
it.
think
if you-
that's a no-no.
Yeah. Yeah, every property is not equal to having everything that can possibly be done
Nope.
on it.
Parking is a premium right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Then the only other thing is on page 4,
Page 4,
line 118.
118.
Permitted uses, home occupations generally include but are not limited to, take out the period and make a small t. And I'm sorry I didn't get to these sooner to make those typos.
Good enough.
I think that's it.
Good enough.
I had a few.
You have any, you got some comments?
David, you had a few, didn't you?
What's that?
I didn't want to, you had a few, didn't you?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I'm good.
Line number 81 into 82. Scratch that. That one's good. Sorry.
Okay.
Lines number 110 through 114. Something in there didn't seem right to me when I read through it. The primary business activity involves the provision of services that by their nature are intermittent and convenient to be provided at the home of business of the client. Examples include mobile rotary, personal services, minor vehicle repair not involving engines as prohibited above, but including
Windshields.
windshield repair, battery replacement. So what I'm reading into this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you could run a windshield shop out of the home and a battery service out of the home. And I'm not really sure that that's the proper setting for it.
Well, the thing about it is that this is meant for it to be a mobile business,
Okay.
being that they're using their home as an office. They're not
Oh,
storing any
okay.
of the windshields or batteries.
They're just
And they're
running
just doing per
the
order.
administrative
Yeah.
portion. Okay.
Should this be mobile notary instead of rotary?
Oh, it should be notary. You rotary people, just
Maybe that.
going
I thought
places.
they were looking at a Wankel
Good
engine.
one.
Okay, any others?
Yeah. I'll say it again, not my most popular one, but I really think line 142 just needs to be scratched. I'm not much into, personally, I'm not much into fortune telling, but if that's what someone chooses to do, and it's them who owns the home who's doing fortune telling, and somebody wants to buy into that,
So you want to call that, just consider that a personal service?
I just would consider it a personal service.
Oh, take out
It's-
fortune telling?
Yeah.
It's not my game, but. I
Well, what
mean,
about massage? I knew somebody in town who did that out of her home.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Things have changed now. They get certified, and the kids go to school, get their certification.
We have a specific massage ordinance as well that
Oh, so
covers a lot.
so if a person
State mandated.
Okay, so if a person wants to do that, they can. They just have to get the right.
You have to go through the proper
Okay.
channels.
Okay.
So
So you want to take spiritual
I say-
advisory service?
we got to
out?
take it and massage out if it's.
It's not my gig, but, I mean,
All of it?
I say just white complete line 142.
Yeah. It sounds politically correct, doesn't it? If you do that, if you take it out.
PC or not, I mean,
Yeah,
if I want to make an extra few bucks and start telling fortunes.
yeah,
You go down to the sheriff's and get yourself a background check.
yeah. I'll go along with that.
So you want to take it out?
I think we should. And I think line 171, the and at the end, I think just needs to be removed, if I'm not mistaken. I know we're not supposed to do a ton of clerical stuff here, but that just seems like 171. I'm sorry, line 171, the and at the end of it.
Oh, take out the end?
Yeah, I think so. And otherwise, I'm good with it. And we did add in the line that just simply states, if it's not covered, it needs to come for review. Is that what?
It's 176.
176 and 177, and that cures when we had the gentleman up here going, what about, what about, what about, what about? That kind of covers all the whatabouts.
And the massage
Well,
person
it
could...
was your suggestion.
I know.
Okay.
You just, okay.
Yeah, I know.
I got it.
Lorraine, you have any comments on that? Okay. I got one more I want to make, having done this myself. I think that part of the application, you have an application form here. I think you need a floor plan of the house, showing exactly where this thing is going to be conducted, so that if there's an accident, a fire, or a raid or something, the folks will know where the equipment is kept, where the tanks for their torches or whatever. I'd probably give the fire department, but also if the building inspector has to go on the site, say, wait a minute, where's the bedrooms? Where's this? So
That's good.
I would add complete floor plan, and if you want, the whole site plan with a floor plan. Whatever you feel is needed.
Are you looking for a 24 by 36 professionally drawn floor plan or a fairly well-scaled,
I've seen some pretty
hand-drawn?
hand-drawn scale. I've
Yeah,
seen them
okay.
clearly, but bottom line is, if it isn't adequate to meet the needs of the staff, then they're just going to have to take it back and have it redone. Okay, that's my comment. Okay, let's see now. So go back to what it's all about.
Would you
Okay,
like,
consider.
would you like us to correct it and bring it back at the next meeting? And
Do you think
so
we need?
that- No, or,
I think it's close
I think
enough.
it's pretty clear. We've said. I
okay.
think you've got them all. And like I said, it's the applicant,
Yeah, we can,
the floor plan, I think, is to the benefit of the staff anyway. Yeah, I have no problem with you folks putting it together. I'll just, when I sign it, I'll...
are there any
take a look.
objections?
Any public comment?
Any public
Oh,
comment?
I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. We've been talking about a home occupation ordinance for the city. Does anyone like to speak on this, for, against, or in between? Oh,
Just a quick question. Not being familiar with what you've been working on here, I just wanted to clarify, you were talking about some home-based businesses that would not fall under this, so it's still allowed, but you'll go about approving them in a different way if it's a senior care facility or a child care facility or one of those things. It's not that they're not allowed, they just have to follow a different path.
they're already allowed under different ordinances
Right.
and state law.
Okay.
And so
Just
they're
making
covered.
sure.
Very good. Yeah, I didn't see them as home occupations. I saw that as a service,
Right.
whole different ballgame. Okay, as I was saying, we have a couple of resolutions here.
So the permit and the,
Okay,
definitions?
I'm sorry.
I think it's just one resolution,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Let's see.
What number will this be, Trish?
Number 13.
Did we need to do a CEQA thing on this?
I don't see the paperwork for that.
you must make a motion that it's categorically exempt.
Is that it? Wait a minute, it's in- Yeah, it is, okay.
Yeah, it's added.
It's in here. So it's a combination. So we're going to find that this will not have, the adoption of this ordinance will not have an adverse effect on the environment, followed by the actual document that we want, the rules and regulations that we want the council to adopt.
All we do is recommend to council. They're the ones who have the final say on the law. Okay. Okay, the chair entertains a motion for action here.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2016-13, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving regulations for home occupation permit and recommending to the City Council amendment of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code to add Section 11-07 home occupation regulations, including the changes we just made.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Guevara.
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros.
Aye.
Commissioner Grossoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Coe.
Aye.
Chairman Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the main for passage unanimously.
Thanks, staff. You filled in a gap that was needed some action.
I was just going to say
Oh, I'll
that.
let you say it then.
No, I think go ahead.
No, again, every time, that's what this commission is supposed to be doing. It's not our job to do all these little tiny details. We set the standards, set the rules, and the staff carries them out. If they have any questions, if anybody gives them a bad time, fine, go to the Planning Commission for adjudication, and that's our job again, to interpret what we've approved here. So that's, I'm just glad the staff caught that, made it easier for people to come in and be processed quickly rather than having to come up to us, because now they know what is or is not allowed. Okay. V, consider an amendment to the Muni Code, adding a noise ordinance. We're going to be looking for a categorical exemption from CEQA and also an ordinance we want the council to adopt. Staff.
All right, so another amendment or addition to the Municipal Code of San Juan Bautista is to strengthen the noise ordinance, being that we didn't have any specific rules and regulations in regard to noise throughout the city. So staff worked on implementing rules and regulations that can accommodate the city of San Juan Bautista and will minimize the nuisance of noise throughout the city. So,
Commissioners, do you have any comments on the proposed resolution, proposed ordinance here?
And remind me, because I think we've gone through this, and maybe I was poo-pooed a couple of times. Line 119, leaf blowers, Ernie's favorite.
119?
There's a whole section on leaf blowers.
There's a whole section of leaf blowers. It was in regards to residents not being able to use a leaf blower on Sunday.
I believe I took that out just because it's the residents, and we're aiming for commercial landscapers or maintenance crews that do come into the city and maintain people's yards or commercial.
But in here, it's not stated at all. I mean, what it says is no person shall operate a leaf blower within a residential zone except during the following hours: 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 on Saturday.
And then the next line, no landscaping shall operate on Sundays and holidays.
Right, but it also what it implies is in a residential zone, the only times you can use it are Monday through Saturday.
Right.
It doesn't give any hours, and I don't mind restricting those hours to say, 10 to 5 or something of that sort, 10 to 4, which is what it is on Saturday. Might be just as easy as saying Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and 10 to 4 Saturday and Sunday and holidays. Or 10 to 4 Saturday, Sunday, holidays. And then the next section covers what landscapers can do and can't do. But I know that I'm not the only one in my neighborhood that's doing their lawn stuff Sunday afternoon or Sunday midday.
Okay, what line were we talking about again?
Line 119, 120-ish, or starting from 118 to 120.
118.
Simply, my suggestion is on line 119, toward the end where it says, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, Sunday, and holidays.
Okay.
Anybody have a problem with this?
No, that sounds good.
Okay, Saturday, Sunday.
I think other than that, I think it looks grand.
I'm looking on page 2,
Page 2,
line 38.
38.
Shall be exempt if A, blah, 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 but there's no B. So why do we have that A? I think we took out a B, but we should probably take out that A.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just take A, just take the
I think.
bracketed A
Yeah,
out.
just a,
Speaking of A's and B's, on page 4, line 109 is C, leaf blowers, and E is refuse collections. What happened to D?
Huh.
Did I miss something?
Oh, no.
Or did we take something out?
I think we
which,
should
which
take
line was
something
that
out.
now?
Well, 109 is C,
Yeah.
leaf blowers.
130
And
is
then
E.
130
Yeah,
is E.
there's no D.
Right.
So we just need to chase those down.
I'll re-letter it.
D, yeah. Okay. And for the record, just combine lines 31 and 32. You probably got that one already.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, any other commission comments?
I have a question, which maybe you already
Go for it.
discussed when you went over this before. The decibel amount, I'm not sure, how do you know if a motorcycle driving by has the decibels?
You don't know?
That are annoying enough, or they're loud
You get a
enough?
cricket at a certain temperature.
Roger
check
is
it
going
against
to,
it.
the staff is going to purchase a decibel meter.
It will require us to purchase an audio meter.
Okay, and then along those same lines, who will enforce this? I mean, will
Our
you-
deputy sheriffs that we contract with the sheriff department, or either Rudy I as an administrative officer.
or like on the weekend, if you're not here, will the sheriffs have the decibel?
Yeah, right. Mhm.
Okay.
Good questions.
Okay, yeah.
And we don't identify what meter we're going to use or anything like that on this document?
No.
Saying that we have, because it's,
The meter has
they're all
to be,
standardized, they're all calibrated according to...
they have to be calibrated in various models, but they all have to be calibrated.
I'm sure it would be a court issue too, so it would have to be maintained. Okay, if anybody in the public would like to speak on this item, noise ordinance, good, bad, indifferent, for or against?
Jolene Cosio, sorry I didn't identify myself before, and sorry I haven't been turning in the Teresa cards every time, but these little things come up sometimes. And I just wanted to mention to you that at the neighborhood watch meetings for a long time now, deputy sheriffs have been telling us that they cannot enforce anything until we pass a noise ordinance and get a decibel meter.
Okay.
And the question that I have is regarding existing vehicle codes. Is there anything about this that is overlapping with existing vehicle codes on noise as far as the...
We made sure we checked the vehicle code and to make sure that it was consistent with it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other comments on the noise ordinance, proposed noise ordinance? There being none, we'll close the public hearing. And the commissioners, any last comments before we call for action? Do you feel that the comments are minor enough that we'll let staff handle them and we'll just approve the ordinance?
And
I believe so.
entertain a motion.
Okay, a motion to,
Lorraine, you want to make a crack at it?
To propose a resolution, propose resolution number such and such, and just read the top line.
just read the title.
I think it's going to be -14.
Yep.
Okay. To propose resolution 2016-14, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the noise ordinance and recommending to the City Council amendment of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code to add Chapter 11-30 regulating noise,
With corrections.
with the corrections we stated.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Call for the vote?
Commissioner Guerrero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mederos,
Aye.
Commissioner Gretasoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Coe?
Aye.
Chairman Franco?
Hi.
All members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Once again, thanks staff for closing a gap in enforcement and policy items. I think you did a lot of work on that. It sure wasn't an easy job to do this one.
That one's been needed for a while. So
Yeah, I think we started in 2012 on it.
Wow.
Sometimes the wheels are slow, but they do get there, like tonight. But thanks, I appreciate the effort you did here.
nice work.
Okay, what's next? Let me see. Consider a site, this is C. Consider a site and design review permit for a single-family home on lot APN 002-380020 on the 400 block of 7th Street. The applicant is Anthony Nicola, and we're looking for a categorical exemption for the project as well as approving site and design for a single-family unit. Staff.
All right, so this site and design review was brought to the commission for the, I believe it was the March Planning Commission meeting. Since then, the plans have been revised. There's not going to be a granny unit at this point, so the structure was widened a little bit, or the plans were widened a little bit, and proper amendments were made to the driveway, to the front portion of the lot. And the applicant is in the audience if you guys have any questions.
Was there a front view? Front elevation?
Well, the same as last.
Rear elevation. There it is, okay. Okay, Mr. Nicola, would you like to speak? Would you come up to the podium, please?
Like Rudy was saying, this is the same design you guys saw last month, with the exception that I removed the secondary unit entirely. And the width of the house is the same. That didn't.
Oh, is it?
That didn't change.
And the garage is still one, is it a tandem? Can you,
No, it's a one-car garage.
just, okay.
The site meets all the city's off-street parking requirements.
Were you thinking of adding any architectural features to the exterior of the house, like shutters or?
Yeah, Rudy and I talked about that.
Okay.
If you guys would like, some
Yeah.
faux shutters to go
Yeah.
in, that's not a problem.
And it like a circular opening or vent at the top, something just to break up the.
Sure.
Break them up.
You give them that copy that I made.
Oh, what else?
Wow.
What's the distance between, are the porch and the garage flush?
I'm not sure I understand how.
The front porch and the front door are offset from the
Yeah, they are.
garage.
What I meant was the porch
Yeah,
steps.
I think it's 5 to
Yeah.
7 feet, I think, yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're talking about right here, huh?
Yeah, I think we prefer when the porch extends beyond the garage. In reverse, have the garage recessed.
I think your city code's the other way, actually.
On Monterey, I think the houses, the porches are more in the front and the garage is recessed a little bit. Those new houses that were built on Monterey.
And why is that?
I think aesthetically it's more appealing not to see the garage but to see a porch.
My front door is recessed behind my garage.
Yeah, it's a 20-foot setback to the garage.
Yeah,
25 to the house.
yeah.
the narrowness of this lot,
would that, if we were to do that, could that be an advantage for you? I mean, if you were to redesign it so that
it's actually a disadvantage.
You think it'd be a disadvantage?
What happened is when you push the garage further back, and then to get a kitchen in there, he goes further back into the hill. There's a higher cut, higher retaining wall. And that was why when we selected it, and I had him do a cross-section, I wanted to keep the cut behind the house because the hill rises about 12.5% to 13%. To keep that cut right about 3.5 to 4 feet so that they could have a backyard and not a great big retaining wall. And that was the reason.
Thank you for including the color palette.
You have to be commended for being able to work with a very small lot. I don't know how they allowed the lot to be 32 feet and the other guy be 38.
48.
48, but congratulations on the work you did.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have to work with what you've got. And you seem to have done a nice project on what you had.
Sidewalks, curbs, and gutters, are they already in?
Yeah, and those are in the conditions.
They're in conditions.
Yeah, I'll be putting in a sidewalk.
Okay, but that's not...
Yeah, that particular lot doesn't have a sidewalk in front of it as of right now.
Oh, okay, that whole area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Curb and gutter.
Okay,
I also
Well, I
don't,
The curb is there, but not the sidewalk.
Right.
but he will have a sidewalk.
He's putting in a sidewalk.
But that's not, I didn't see that as a condition.
it should be in there.
I also don't see solar ready.
I see it, it's in a drawing, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think it needs to be specifically included as a condition, and I didn't see it, but if somebody else did, please let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't see that, and I don't see that it be solar ready either, so I think we want to include that.
21.
Oh, okay, if we're going to conditions, on 17, the applicant shall pay all planning, building permit, plan checking, inspection, utility connections, impact, capacity impact, and development review fees. When? Do we stipulate prior to the issuance of the permit? Okay, well, then we need to state that. And line 13, or it's condition 13, no construction shall be allowed on Sunday or holidays, include holidays.
13.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the other besides solar ready?
Sidewalks?
Curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
Curb and gutter, I think, is there.
Curb is in there. It should be the applicant shall install sidewalks along the frontage of 7th Street.
Okay.
21.
21.
So 21 is sidewalks, 22 is solar ready. Okay. Any other comments? Lorraine? Eric?
Yeah, done well.
David, any comments on this?
Yeah.
About the public?
Okay, now, stand by just in case. Okay, Commissioner, you've heard the Commission discuss this, and we open now to public comments about good, for, and different. Who's up? Cara? If you'd like to speak, did you sign in? Just grab a little slip there.
Okay. Thank you. Carvonk, 609 3rd Street. I just wanted to briefly comment on the garage issue. And I wonder if you've looked at the design guidelines, the city's design guidelines. Recessed garages are preferred. And I think I mentioned this once before. In some other cities where you have older neighborhoods, they would prefer the garage to be placed at the very back of the lot. Because the idea now is that you don't want to see a big garage door as the frontage of the home. It's not welcoming. that front door and the porch and all of that should be facing the street and would be welcoming to, those passing by. So I think Commissioner Guibert was on the right track in terms of the garage placement. And I'm sorry he's not doing a second unit, because I do support second units, which I commented on last time.
Can I comment to that real quick? First of all, to Ms. Vong, to put a garage in the rear of this, it's far too narrow to do that. There's just no room to be able to do that in this particular property. I don't disagree with you if this were 50 or 60 feet wide to request it, but this property is far too narrow for that. And I agree, although if it says preferred, as far as the setback in the garage, it says preferred, not absolutely has to. I think he's done a nice job considering how narrow that property is 32 feet wide.
And if I can add, the constraints on this are very demanding. Yeah. Not only the width and everything, but the gradient going back to the lot at 12 and 13% all the way up. And the more that you push that house back, the deeper the cut gets. Yeah. And we wanted to avoid that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to comment on the 32-foot width, because our lot also happens to be 32 feet wide. And I'm just wondering if that's because it may have been slated to be a street at one time. Because our lot is directly across from Jefferson Street, and apparently it once connected to, we're on 3rd, connected to 4th. So I think maybe that's why you might find some lots that are 32 feet wide.
Interesting. That might make sense.
Carl, may I ask, this is not on topic, but your house was moved to that site?
No.
No, it wasn't.
It's actually quite old. Okay. It shows up on some of the very first maps that we have at the museum. So it's one of the original ones.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker.
I didn't realize that homes with non-recessed garages was not very welcoming.
Well, what happens is you go to some of these big subdivisions, and the principal feature of the house is the garage.
I have an L-shaped. I have an L-shaped home that we built in the 80s, and I don't think it kept anybody out so far.
Wow. The 80s was long ago.
In style.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We get some styles you got to keep.
Greg Guevara.
Hi.
Hello, Greg Guevara, 405 7th Street. I just want to know, is the roof on this lot is going to be the same for the second unit? Is it going to be the same height as the existing, or the roof next to mine? And to the two-story next to the other lot, I believe it's 403. That lives right next to that empty lot.
There's no secondary.
401? Is it 401? 401.
There's no secondary unit.
No secondary unit.
Well, it's just the garage on there. There's two garages. There's a garage on my side, and there's another garage on 401, and there's a garage. It's just all the structure of the house is built on 405, which is my property. I just want to see just the pitch of the roof, so it's not higher than my roof on 405,
Do we know how those compare?
Well, his plate heights are standard, and then the 8-foot plate heights in the second unit and everything, and his roof pitch is a 5 and 12.
When you say second unit, what do you mean?
You're talking the upstairs, not the second unit.
Okay.
The upper stairs, yeah.
Okay.
The second floor, I should say.
Oh, the second floor, okay.
Yeah, right.
You said second unit, and
We're thinking
the last time there was
yeah.
a second unit in back, and so.
So it's all, organized, so it's not one's higher than the other, and then, the property next to it is lower or anything.
Have you seen the elevation?
No, I have not seen the elevation.
You got it?
Want to come up and take a look at it? Feel free.
Okay.
See both groups have the same pitch. One just smaller than the other.
No, I don't mind the lower part, just that two-story part.
I think it's at 23 feet. It was on one of the spec pages.
How does this answer your question?
Exactly like the same area of my property.
So you're at 405?
I'm at 405, yes.
Is that that's two-story?
That's a single story, but I have a big retaining wall in the back, and then I have a garage up in the
Okay.
top. So I just wanted to see if it was going to be the same height,
On this first page?
the height of the garage, when he builds his two-story, or the architect, or whatever.
Gives you all the specs.
So that's all I was just asking.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
And 401 is a two-story,
Okay.
as well as the corner.
Yeah, 401 also does have a garage, too.
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, his is two-story, but his two stories in the front.
Yes.
Okay.
They do have a garage in the front.
Okay. So did you get your question answered then?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
thank you for asking.
Are there any other public comments?
No. Oh, Joan Haverhill?
Jillian Cosio. It's another question related to the sidewalks. I know when I put in my garage at Polk and 7th, it was a requirement of new construction that you have to put in a sidewalk. So if it's a requirement in the code, does it have to also be a condition? Or is it a
No,
requirement?
we got it
of
in
the
the
codes already?
conditions. Well,
It could be redundant, it's, yeah.
Just in case anybody wasn't aware or hadn't read this
Yeah.
fine print, you
Yeah.
want to make sure that there's no questions when they come by for a final to occupy or sell. What, by the way, you haven't done this, whereas we make it convenient for the applicant saying, it's number 7.
Yeah, I would hate this if it ever happened, because it would cost me a lot of money to put sidewalks all the way around my house. But it is kind of an interesting ordinance. New construction, as in putting in a garage, requires a sidewalk. The rest of my house has no sidewalk.
Make a note of that.
Make a note when Jolene's permit comes through.
I have, in front of my home, I have a sidewalk, and the home next to me does not. And so it's all broken up on First Street there. And but I was required to put in a sidewalk in the gutter. But my neighbor, 4 or 5 years later, was not required.
Somebody missed it.
We try to
So-
be very consistent today.
In regards to the history of the past, consistency is now doing the right thing, as well as trying to catch up in the past.
Even the one on Franklin, we required
A
curb
sidewalk?
gutter and
Okay.
sidewalk.
Yeah,
It
would be the
was
only
a
one.
Tug of war, but
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
We're going to improve this town one sidewalk,
sidewalk
at
at
a
a
time,
time.
one house at a time.
Yeah, how are you going to backfill? I mean, it's kind of interesting because people can walk on the sidewalk I have provided, and then that's it. You have to go walk out in the street.
You're walking an ice plant.
Well, you can walk an ice plant too, but I think.
Yeah, some of that stuff should have been done, but
Yep.
like I said. Okay, now we have to approve the categorical exemption and also the design. So the chair entertains a motion for action on the environmental review, or CEQA.
I have a question about why does the resolution not say that it's an exemption from CEQA?
yeah, you could incorporate it in the resolution granting site design that is categorically exempt, and it would save you doing a separate resolution.
It was just confusing to me because I see the next one says site plan and design review also, so I wondered, well, what's the difference? And I just see that this one's CEQA.
So you think that the first one should get rid of?
No, they should be combined. But that's okay, we're doing this one now. Since
Okay,
it's
but
already
is it
there.
okay to say the categorical exemption for the site and design review on this one? The CEQA
first
one?
one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what we're going to do.
And again on the second one?
That just approves the site and design review.
Okay, so the difference is simply a categorical exemption.
Of the
And the
site
next one is
design review,
approval.
and the other one
And
is the
all
approval.
Rudy has to do on 216-15, it's 216 instead of 215, is to put one whereas the site design is category exempt according to the section code of the CEQA and Article 19, Section 15332A, B, and D.
That would smooth it out.
Yeah, and then.
Make it real
And then
nice.
just add one more whereas right in there, and then it's.
Can you read off how it should be, and we'll just tab on
Well,
to your...
we would put the whereas on the second whereas. And it says, whereas the approval of the site design is category exempt in accordance with CEQA guidelines, Article 19, Section 15332A, B, and D.
Well, yeah, we'll just take this
No,
whereas. and-
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good point. Save staff a lot of trouble.
That was
too.
good.
Save a lot of headaches.
Yeah, that was good though.
Okay. Once again, staff, or the chair entertains a motion for action.
For resolution, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the categorical exemption for the site and design review, SDR 216-302, for APN 002-380-020 on 7th Street. Also to include whereas CEQA was included in that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I made a motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Guevara?
Aye.
Commissioner Mederos?
Aye.
Commissioner Gretasack?
Aye.
Commissioner Coe?
Aye.
Chairman Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
And that was with corrections.
That was with corrections. I did, whereas.
And conditions 21 and 22.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one. D.
Thank you.
Consider rezoning a 0.0655 acre parcel of land
We're continuing this.
situated 251.17 feet north of the north line of San Juan Hollister Road from commercial zoning to R1 low-density residential zoning district.
And we're continuing this matter until the next meeting.
To me. Okay. E, review and comment on initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the Copperleaf subdivision project situated on the north side of San Juan Hollister Road, 300 feet east of Salinas Grade Road. We get an informal presentation of the exterior elevations and proposed residential structures, and we'll continue the resolution for the adoption of the initial study and mitigated negative declaration to the future meeting. Staff.
Yes, and Mr. Chair, members of the commission.
That's it?
We recognize that the voluminous of the data that there, and we felt that it was only prudent for you to review it. It was emailed to you, and that as an opportunity to get your comments, inputs, and stuff like that so that we can incorporate your thoughts before we entertain any approval, and because it is a very comprehensive document.
Some of the reports are 60 and 70 pages long in that.
Yeah.
It's a very comprehensive background report. If you know nothing at all about biology, seismology, botany, and geotechnical stuff, reading those reports would be an education in itself.
I learned more about the tiger salamander than I ever thought I would.
See? There you go. And that you won't find any burrowing owls because there's no rodent holes to climb into.
And I think we wanted to encourage input not only from the commission as well as the public, so that we gather that and then they can.
Now you sent those to us by email. Is it on site?
Yes.
It's also
Is it online?
online rather.
Let's see. She put it. No, it's not online.
Okay.
Okay.
But
First thing,
yeah.
we should take care of that because so the public can have a chance to see it.
It has been submitted to the State Clearinghouse, and it has been reviewed there for a 30-day review period.
Okay. this is a major project. We've been talking about annexations and rezonings, et cetera, but I never knew we had a subdivision already in the books. And apparently they've been doing this for about a year, and I thought maybe an informal presentation would have been in order.
Yeah.
So we would know what was happening.
Where it got trapped is that when they came forward, we were redoing the general plan, and for them to do a general plan amendment when the general plan was in the mill being there, I advised them to say, hold till we finish the general plan. And so that we didn't get into a general plan amendment as well as approve the general plan.
That's confusing. I agree with that.
It would be very confusing. So they were very patient, and they waited until we adopted the general plan and then went to the city council. Now they can move forward with the thing. And the first thing is, as I advised them, is that a development of this thing is you have to do a substantial environmental document that addresses the impacts. And we went through the impacts and the initial studies and everything, and then they responded by preparing this.
I was impressed with the quality of the work and reports.
Yeah.
I have a question. What comes to mind when I see this is I'm thinking, what's happening with ARCO? Because we had a lot of discussion about the traffic from ARCO and Leal. That was going to be a big to-do, and now we're thinking about 55 homes. So is ARCO, what's the status of that?
ARCO has been in front of adjudicated in front of the judge. It has cleared almost all the impacts with the exception of noise. A new noise study has been prepared. It is being codified into our staff report and mitigation and monitoring programs. That'll be in front of the city council at the next meeting and at the May meeting for rescinding the approval, adding the new document, and then reapproving the documents so that it can go forward and then go back to the judge to show that the mitigation that we have proposed will be less than significant to the noise of the structures across the street.
Now we had a lot of problems with Leal. I mean, he's got a lot of illegal operations going on there now. The amount of traffic going through there. Will he be bypassed in all of this?
No, he's incorporated in that. Now the reason that the item before this was pulled off of the thing is we did not want to create a situation where we rezoned a commercial piece to residential, and it would add another complexion to the noise analysis that was done, particularly for the houses across the Alameda. And so we just says, well, let's pull that, leave it commercial until we resolve the service station noise decibel level.
Okay.
Like I said, we've had the layout issue up here so many times that I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost in the process. And there was a fair share program here that the traffic generated just by that operation alone that has to be.
And if you have looked in the environmental documents, they have a traffic report there, and I don't know if you picked through the fine print and everything, but it delineates a fair share to improvements along Highway 156.
I just want to make sure that was public.
That was on page 637, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I have another question. We've approved the 85-home Rancho Vista project.
Good question.
We've approved the 44 D'Ambrosio project.
27.
Okay, I knew that wasn't going to be right. We've got the 4 on 7th Street. And now if we've got, how do we pace the construction? How do we not have them all going on at one time?
How do we
not have all these projects happening at one time? How do we ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, because they're phased. You know, the Rancho Vista was 7 phases. The D'Ambrosio now is coming back to you and will be in 2 phases.
But what if they all start at the same time? I mean, how can we manage all this construction?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that just it's a total of 158 lots and stuff like that. I don't think it's large. I've done one subdivision that's got 158.
But all,
Yeah, but-
but all 158 lots are not going to be happening at the same
No,
time.
they're not.
No, they're not, but within it,
But you might say the developments, there might be 3 developments going on at the same time.
Well, I look at the sign ordinance that we spent so much time on. It's not being enforced because we really can't manage it, I think.
Well, I think that Rudy and I have made some headway in enforcing it, and we've gone down to the merchants and let them know that they can have certain A-frames out during working hours, can't, and everything, but there are a lot of non-conforming signs, and we're advising them, and one by one, we're going after them. I mean, it's just a matter of keep processing.
Yeah.
I had a couple questions in the report itself, and this was in the, was it the administrative portion, the administrative summary? Page 44 was in regards to law enforcement and explains how it's San Benito County Department and how we contract them and this and that. At some point, and whether it be with this project or sometime in the near future, the decisions will need to be made to start charging a certain extra amount. I mean, let me back up a little bit. When D'Ambrosio came around the second time with 27 homes, the question was asked, is this going to be an impact with law enforcement? And the answer was no. When Rancho Vista came in with 85 plus 1 home, and the question was asked about, is this going to impact law enforcement? The answer was no. Now we've got 45 homes, and it appears as if the answer is this isn't going to impact law enforcement. At what point does factoring in for law enforcement become something that has to be dealt with, either through impact fees, either through a budget mechanism, or through something?
So you can't develop unless you have the support from the local police.
I mean, we don't
have anything.
We have a mechanism for.
I think you're missing the point. If you look at our impact fee structure, every house pays $1,543 for police impact fees. That helps us pay for the contract. As we get the homes in, we are able to increase the number of hours that we negotiate with the sheriff department for more coverage.
So is the intention, once D'Ambrosio, Rancho Vista, and I'm sorry, what's this one, Copperleaf go in, that hours, I mean, as you know, with I've headed this up through a strategic plan and through Neighborhood Watch, but at what point do those hours actually start happening? Is it when the homes first start going in, we start?
When the development occurs.
Okay. In that section, page 44 and 45, it's a minor correction, but it does need to be made. It says neighborhood watch meetings are held the third Monday of each month at the sheriff's substation. They're held the second Thursday of the month at City Hall. It's a minor thing, but it should be noted. And second of all, it says that the sheriff, deputies, that they have an on-site substation, or they're the second line on law enforcement. The sheriff maintains the sheriff's substation within the city. However, it's only used for administrative purposes, and we don't have that. So I really think that needs to be reflected so it's extremely clear in here.
Well, there was a substation there. They no longer use it at the school, and we're making available a substation at the firehouse.
Then that should be reflected in here.
That administrative report, when was it dated?
I didn't print out the whole thing. I only had so much ink and so much paper. It's whatever one was in there. But I mean, it's being submitted to us for the first time tonight. Therefore, it should be somewhat reflective of what current events are. I think the last date I saw on this was December. It really doesn't matter that they entertained this to you a year ago, and we have had a substation in town for over 3 years. Neighborhood watch meetings have been held at City Hall at least since that
Yeah.
time and the second Thursday. Again, it's a clarification and it's one of the passions that I have, but it really should be very clear in here so that if there's anything comes about, I don't think it's a holdup.
And
I
that
think it's just a
document was
correction.
submitted? I'm not familiar with that document.
It was one of the ones that got emailed.
What attachment was it?
Huh?
Administrative report for Copperly.
Yeah, it's
It was 63 pages.
probably the small one.
Oh,
No, it was-
It was like a 63
It was
or...
part of this document here?
Yes.
Hold on, give me.
Okay.
Would you like me to go get it?
No, I'll give you
I'm
the
just saying
pages.
is-
You can have these, I've marked them
it's-
out.
It's the second- it's the second
I'm just
email,
saying is
it's
that
the last-
that's the
I think
nature
you're right.
of your input is that has to be corrected.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that I am extremely concerned with, and I think most of the people watching will agree with this, is at some point we need to do an upgrade to our waste treatment plant before we allow any more homes in a mass collective like this to be put in. When Rancho Vista got put in, I went back and watched the tapes because I had asked last time, and it was stated that we were going to be at 90% and that those improvements were going to be made to bring that back down into the, I think, mid-70s range.
That is correct.
And at the last meeting, it sounded like that we were told that we would only be at 85% capacity, and that when the budget got to the point, then we'd make the improvements. And I think before these homes get built, an upgrade needs to be made so that, if nothing else, the citizens of this town...
And you're absolutely right, but nothing gets paid into that fund to expand it until a building permit is issued.
Okay.
And that's $5,240 per household for sewer, $7,550 for water. And so we rely on that $13,000 plus to build up the fund. We have been building it up. We're going to initiate the water softening plant shortly, and we are programmed to start removing the sludge and increasing the capacity on the wastewater.
Okay.
But it's all predicated on the impact fees that are going to generate that dollar.
Have the impact fees for the Rancho Vista project been paid?
Nothing has been issued.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Understood. Okay.
Do you know where they are in the big scheme of things? Are they close?
They're probably going to come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay.
For Rancho Vista, is there a similar study that's being done there as well, or is this different?
It was the same study. They had a
Oh.
mitigated negative declaration there.
Okay.
And that was approved, as you recall, in 7 phases.
Right.
Okay.
Now that we've discussed all this stuff, there's something on the agenda about a presentation. And if anybody has a large map of the subdivision itself, that'd be nice to have on display. So, does the applicant like to speak, or is somebody speaking for the applicant?
We did bring, hi, Catherine A. Strike with Edenbridge Homes, the applicant, and we did bring the tentative map, but wasn't really sure where we would put it up.
We have a small building here.
Yeah, I hate to put it on the screen. And I think I would probably just put page 3.
Will it clip on the back one?
Oh, you got the clips, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, get rid of the screen, please. I need to put that up there and have an overhead,
We need to play the lottery.
and we all get laptops.
Yeah, we all get laptops. I saw that one. That was in the document.
Is the board considered historical to not taking it down? Is the barn historical?
Great. This is just a larger map of what was in your packet. You had all 6 pages of the tentative map. This is just the site plan. And I can go over a couple things on the site plan, although you didn't ask any questions about it. The Lot C, which is in the left-hand southerly portion of the site, is the portion of the property that the Mannings are retaining. So we are not purchasing that. That has the house on it right now and some a garage and some outbuildings, and we're not going to purchase that. That's going to be through a lot line adjustment. We're going to leave that with the Mannings. The upper right-hand portion of the site, that's going to have a park.
This
Park.
has to do with the seismic regulations?
Well, as you can see, the setback for the San Andreas Fault actually is an angle. You can see that on the map, and it goes through that corner. So we can't build any structures that people are living in within there. So we took that portion of the site and we put a community park. And it's also the lowest portion of the site, so that's where we put our water quality retention basin. And then we're moving the city well, which is about, there are a couple arrows there that show the city well, and we're moving that to the lower right-hand southerly portion of the site. And the city's going to redig that well, redrill that well. And the rest of the site just shows two cul-de-sacs. This is a conforming zoning. This is not a planned development permit, and so all of the lots will be at least 7,000 square feet. We have some lots that are larger. We do have, I just want to point out, we do have 2 lots on the site that are obviously within the setback, and we're trying to keep those lots. We're in the design stage right now for our plans, and that's lot 23 and 24. We can put a habitable portion of the actual home outside of that setback, and we can place a garage within the earthquake zone because it's not habitable. So we're looking at those 2 lots right now, trying to save them. We may not be able to, but that's what we're looking at right now. It might be 44 lots or 43 lots, but we're trying to save those lots right now. So the elevations that I talked to Roger, and we talked about the elevations, and we had your design guidelines. And so what I included in your packet are several representations of what we are thinking about. We have not designed the floor plans yet. We have a program that we are working with our architect on, so nothing is set in stone yet. If you would like to comment on the elevations. So these are just representations of what we could build on the property. We took your design guidelines. We have porches on the property, and if you notice that these elevations are, it's a little bit hard to tell, but the setback to the garage will be 25 feet, setback to the porch will be 20 on the lots. And I know you were talking about your garage setback. And we tried to stay with the Craftsman and the cottage and the bungalow. Tuscan design has been very popular for us in our other subdivisions, but if that's something that you'd like not to see, I think the elevations are actually very representative of what we're building in our other subdivisions. We have a couple that I threw in at the back, the last 2. If you notice, the garage is turned. And so the front of the house is what you see on the main street, and then these are usually put on corner lots, and then we'll turn the garage so that the garage is on one street and the front of the house is on another. We're also discussing that. We haven't decided to do that yet, but that's one thing that we've done with our other subdivisions, which is very popular. So I think Roger and I discussed coming back at some point before we actually, we have some conceptual designs and we can get some more feedback from you, so we'll show you the actual floor plans, we'll show you the actual elevations with a design review hearing. So we decided to do that.
This is San Juan Bautista, the city of history. And when Mr. Dodwell did his project, he included aspects of the city's historical architecture in his building. These are all very modern, very new, and I was just wondering, did your architects take into consideration any historical feeling that they might want to put into these things to offer the city?
Well, he actually has come down here, and you have the Craftsman, you have farmhouse, you have bungalow. Tuscan is the only elevation that you probably don't have.
I guess that's the first one I saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if that's something that you would not like us to add, then we won't. What we're thinking about, the program for this subdivision is we have 3 plans with probably 3 elevations each. 2 of the plans are going to be 1 story, which we hardly ever do, but we noticed because just from a developer's and builder's point of view, when you build a 1 story, you have double the foundation, you have double the roof, double the plumbing run, so it's very expensive to do 1 story. That's why you don't see a lot of 1 stories being built. But we decided because San Juan was special and you have a lot of 1 stories here, we're going to put 2 1 stories in our program and just 1 2 story. So
Creekbridge Development did a lot of 1 stories.
Yeah.
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 What are the 9 accessory living units?
Those are to meet your affordable housing.
Are they going to be grannies?
Yes, you can call them grannies. And we're basically working with a 1-story detached unit.
Now, how are you going to maintain them as affordable?
I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I don't know that any of them, I don't know if there's a program within your city to maintain them. I'm not sure how we're going to do that.
Once I thought about in another situation, the housing authority manages builds it, but also manages units, and they're the caretakers of the various income rates and housing affordability. If a rental was to meet one of their categories, that would make it affordable, and it would be a long-term unit, and that would guarantee we'd have an affordable unit. Otherwise, you can see these things going out just at market rate, which means it's not going to help anybody, except the person.
If they're rented and there's not a son or a daughter or a grandmother or grandfather in them, if they're actually rented out to the public, they have to adhere to your housing authority rules.
See, that's what I would look for to say, okay, you're going to work with these standards. This is the housing authority for this size house. For this. Okay.
If they elect to do that, they may put their teenage sons or who knows in there.
So I remember I dealt with one where there's a beautiful house, and he says, your mother and I are moving to the accessory unit, and the kids wanted to rent it, fine, otherwise it was going on the market. But he retired in the little one, and the big one was his income. Go ahead.
What do you think that the houses will sell for? I mean, what are you hoping?
I really don't have any input into that. That's not in my department at the company, but and I can certainly give you a range at the May hearing. I know we tentatively, whenever you're looking at a piece of property, we put a number in there, whether that's true or not. That's
well, I'm looking at the general plan and wondering if it will meet the goal of affordable housing for all demographic and income groups. I don't think so.
And not in San Bernardino County. Not in San Bernardino County.
No.
We're finding just from the sales of existing houses in here is it's so fluid and volatile that it's really affected by what's happening 50 miles north of here.
Even renting small places is getting to be out of this world.
Yeah.
I remember one time there was no houses available to rent when I was looking back in the 80s.
Looking at this map, so what is this line?
That is the city boundary line.
And where does Leal's property end? Is this just
The
Wait.
city
Leal's right here.
is this one right here. Right with your finger.
here?
Yeah.
But how much of this is
All of
Leal?
it.
All of this is Leal.
Yeah. Do you remember when he came in front of you and asked for that great big banquet room?
Banquet hall.
Right.
That was on above that little red square.
So the red square is on his property.
Yeah. No.
No.
It's not his property. Red Square is a separate property owned by the Mannings.
Okay, I don't see that.
What you got? This is the service station lot.
Right,
This is Leal,
right.
and the Manning zone.
Just that little, that's
And everything else.
it. That's it.
And
Okay.
part of the
Okay.
barn is on that piece. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if I can ask you this, but has Ms. Manning sold the property already, or?
No.
We have
No.
not closed on
Okay.
the property.
No.
We're in escrow to purchase it.
Okay.
Subject to approval of the subdivision?
Pardon?
Subject to approval of the subdivision?
Yes, of course.
Well, like I said, it appears that we're going to meet a need. We need housing. If you want growth, you have to have places to put people. If you want economic development downtown, you need people to go down and buy things.
You're right.
So
This is
for
the,
planning, we just pick up the whole big picture
I'm sorry, I didn't see the
and
picture.
put the markets in motion.
Like this.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions from the folks? Okay, do you have any speaker cards?
Yes.
Oh,
Jolene Cosio?
stay close, we have some comments.
Jolene Cosio, 181 Lang Street. I knew
discussed
I
that
would just
before.
have one or two questions, so I actually filled out a card this time. Okay, at the city council meeting, I brought up the fact that this, I thought, was commercial property, and how did it become R2, and how did I miss that in the discussions of the general plan? And I don't know how I missed it, but transparency just came out as one of the reasons I might have missed it. Had we known that there was already a development on the market, I think we would have noticed it when we discussed the general plan and they decided to change it from commercial to R1. Because I know that went right past me. I thought it was still commercial. I thought it was going to be something that would be great for an RV park, a equestrian center, ag businesses. Residential and industrial type uses just don't mix together well. And this is exactly what we're going to be doing here. And I got to tell you, every single person on the city council agreed with me that they would rather have seen it go into some sort of industrial, commercial type thing. It's better for the city, way better for the city. But because it was already in the general plan, they approved it on a 5-0 vote. And I couldn't really disagree with them. I think that's the same way that it was presented to you. Well, it's in the general plan as R1, so we should bring it into the city as R1. I believe it's still county currently. But the housing element, I'm so glad you're discussing that. That's such an important aspect of this. And it's not just about brand new units. We need affordable housing that can be purchased by people. If it's going to go into R1, which it looks like it is, I'd like to see large lots, some of them with in-laws, places where you can put a shop if you want. And I don't mean a business shop, I mean a shop like we have on our lot. My husband has a 4-car shop. We also have a 2-car garage. That's what we're into. So we have that, and it's nice when you have a big lot like that, like they have on Lang Street. And then across the street from us, there's about 5 houses that are all rentals, well, all but one are rentals, and I would consider them for affordable housing type houses, and it's mixed in there with the large lots up on Lang Street. So various size lots, I think, is important rather than the cookie cutter look. I'd prefer seeing it come in as lots rather than as houses at all, where you can build your custom home, but that's just my opinion. That's not, really related here. Yeah, ag-related buildings is what I kind of pictured out there of some kind, or an RV park or something for people going out to Pinnacles. The RV park that's out there is currently full all the time, under my understanding. It might not appeal to homeowners that there's a lot of 5-acre parcels out there with goats and cows and horses. we've already approved the 84 homes, you guys discussed that already. What about water and sewer? You're discussing that. And Roger, I know you're saying that this is not that large a development in your experience, but in San Juan, it's huge. All of these houses is huge. You talk about the percentage of the total population and number of houses. We only have 700 houses and growing. And I love the way that you're encouraging infill. That's really a great thing for the city. There's a lot of good things going on. I don't mean to criticize everything. But moving the city, well, are they going to guarantee us that there's no nitrates and how many gallons per minute? I know I'm past my time here, but you know, with the ARCO station, we talked a lot about traffic and children crossing the street. We've got an impact on schools coming in with more houses. There's so much to consider here, and I'm really glad that you guys are really taking a hard look at this.
Thank you.
Carvon?
Thank you, Planning Commissioners. Caravant, 609 3rd. I did come in this afternoon and I tried to read through all the material as quickly as I could. I'd appreciate having it online, so maybe I can submit some written comments. The big thing that jumped out at me is that the CEQA document does not adequately cover cultural resources. There is no mention of the barn other than that it's a dilapidated structure and a suggestion that maybe it be moved to the owner's ranch. Under CEQA, a historic resource needs to have an architectural historian do a full-blown report on it. And that's not in here. The city should be hiring the architectural historian, and the applicant pays for it. It's part of the development process. I did get a recommendation from somebody who serves on the Monterey Historic Resources Board. There's an individual that she recommended who lives in, I believe, Pacific Grove, and I have that name. That person's name is Seth Bergstein. He's an architectural historian, and he's done a lot of work for the Monterey Cultural Resources Board.
Could you repeat his last name?
It's Bergstein, Seth, first name. So under CEQA, the barn needs to be reviewed, its history, and then they would make recommendations on various alternatives. If it's too far gone, maybe the recommendation would be to demolish it. Another recommendation, and one that I have thought about that I thought would be great for the city and the county, is to turn that barn into a farmer's market that showcases the organic agricultural products. There's easy access from Highway 156 on and off, as well as parking opportunities. There is no mention in the Cultural Resources document about the railroad right-of-way that is there, and I don't know too much about it. I believe it was, what do they call that? Not a single track, but, you know, the narrow gauge. And I believe that was tied into the cement plant and all of that. That's a whole other history of the city that should be documented. And there's a historic marker there, which is not mentioned. There is a photo in that binder of the marker, but there's no mention. So all of this needs to be thoroughly discussed, reviewed, alternatives. Moving a barn to another location, that does not comply with the Secretary of the Interior standards because you're removing it from its context. So, you know, we need to get the expert to look at it, tell us what it is, what its condition is, and what alternatives are available to the city. So that's my main point. I agree with everything that's been said about affordable housing. We really need affordable housing in this town, and this obviously does not meet those goals. The other big issue has to do with archaeology. There should be a full-blown archaeological report on this site. It's mentioned in the documents that there is something documented that's 800 feet away. These archaeological sites are generally not available to the public because they don't want to make it, have people digging around. But I believe it is available to people who are archaeologists. So there's a creek nearby, this whole area, what do you call it? The San Juan Canyon apparently is a historic district, which I didn't know, under the county guidelines. And there's one other thing about the barn. The San Benito County did a historic resources survey in 2003, and the barn, there's a reference to barns off of Highway 156. It has a document number, so it's probably in the northwest bank. It's Sonoma State University maintains all of these inventories. So hopefully there's a DPR form or something more detailed about it. So those are my preliminary comments.
Thank you.
I might, do something in writing.
Thank you, Mike.
There is a lot
Thank
of
you.
reading there. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Any more comments?
Oh, we have another. Jan Jensen?
Yeah, Jan Jensen, 1149 First Street. I know it's been talked about the sewers redoing is based on permits. I just am concerned that the same thing's going to happen that it did in Hollister, that the same thing happened, that it was based on permits, and then the state, let them build the houses, but then didn't let them hook up to the sewer until it was done. I live close to the sewer, and in the evenings there are a strong stench coming from the sewer as it is now. This was, quote unquote, an El Nino year. As we know, we did not get the rain that we expected, and when it does rain in San Juan, it's nothing but water everywhere. So I would be concerned about, especially over there, the water runoff of the creek, how it does flood that intersection. The other thing is there's no mention of the widening of Highway 156 that's supposed to be proposed in that area. As to the circle, the change of the whole Highway 156 and how it would affect students crossing to the school site. That is the only school in San Juan, and I work for a school district and school safety. We had a grandmother walking her daughter to school and was hit by actually it was a sanitation truck and killed as she was walking her student to school. So school safety and crossing, especially on that highway, is a major concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
No.
That's it. Okay. Commissioner, do you have any follow-up comments?
Well, just a follow-up to the traffic flow. We had the issue. We discussed it with ARCO and Leal, and if you just think of the backup, where are they going to back up to? And if you're waiting to get out into the highway, all those cars, I don't think they're going to be going east. I think they'll be going to the 156 and to the 101.
Or straight across into town.
Oh, into town and over, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one thing to consider traffic-wise is you've got 45. Let's presume they all come in off of 156 and make a right turn into it. At some point, they've got to come back over in town across that light. That light with 45 homes there seems like it's going to be seeing an awful lot. And I know the traffic study should be covering all that. It just seems it really should be looked at carefully. The other concern I would have is in the general plan, the new general plan, there was a lot of emphasis put on this being a walking town. And although there are lights with crosswalks, I think an overhead or a walkover or something really seems like it's a little more appropriate. that would also take away a lot of the concern of if a refueling station and convenience store come in, there was an awful lot of concern about kids running across the freeway, and if you had an overhead, that might mitigate that concern as well.
Or a tunnel.
Or a tunnel. I know that was something that had been discussed too, and I don't know the feasibility of these things. I mean, these are all the things I'm just pointing out. But
It is a security issue.
it is a security issue.
With a tunnel?
I mean, as far as not having some way to get back and forth,
Yeah.
except across the crosswalk. I mean, the problem with the crosswalk is if the light's red, how many times do those trucks come flying down the canyon and not stop? I mean, you stand at Windmill for more than an hour or two and you hear half a dozen of those guys doing nothing but blowing their horn and just stomping on the gas and continuing to fly through that light. Like that's some sort of, hey, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and blow this. Well, you'd like to think that children are going to be aware of the surroundings, but in all honesty, they're not. And with more pedestrian traffic coming from there to here, because this is a walking town that we've now promoted with a new general plan, it's a huge concern.
Do the houses butt up to the 156?
Backyards.
Yeah, the backyards?
Yeah,
They
right.
do.
There are a number of lots that butt up to there'll probably be a sound wall that would be along those.
But there would be no ingress or egress.
Everything
No.
above, yeah, on the top part.
Sound wall.
So one of the features that I really liked about Christopher Ranch is how he did the frontage to the San Juan highways. He didn't put backyards against the highway. He put front yards in the street and a row of trees. So when you look the San Juan highway in, you're not looking at this wall for several hundred yards. You just said it, there's going to be a sound wall, and I understand it's a highway and there's a lot more noise coming off of 156 than there is San Juan Highway coming in, but just visually, it seems like it's not San Juanish. Seems like we're boxing it in and making it more.
I don't know the answer to the sound wall, but I got one behind me, and still, the noise is tremendous.
That's not gonna work.
Make it Mission-esque. They did it up that way, didn't they?
Yeah.
Caltrans did that. Yeah,
Tile and
We'll have them build it.
yeah.
Citizen systems.
I think someday we're going to get to a point like they did in Seattle. You've got all these public rights-of-ways. They'll probably put decks on them, and people will start building communities on top of the decks because the property is already owned by the governments, and there's just an awful lot of unused space above freeways. But that's not here. Is there any other comments?
I'm just curious, there was a comment about the zoning of this area. So the land, obviously on one side is Leal, so that's commercial. On the other side is an RV park, so that's commercial.
R4.
R4. And then across is agriculture.
Across the freeway.
Street is
Across the street.
currently it's in the county and it's agriculture. In our general plan, directly across the street is R2,
For industrial.
R3, medium density for the first 200 feet, and behind that is R1 all the way to Mission Vineyard Road.
Okay.
And that's what we call a special district that'll have a specific plan.
Yeah, I don't know, just the road quality along there is also, I mean, that's a lot of traffic potentially for that road. Looks like it could use some repaving.
And across from the Mission RV, that is zoned agricultural, and then further to the east is industrial, and industrial all the way to Mission Vineyard Road.
Right.
I'm a vendor of agricultural land, and I was glad to see that the land was not considered prime.
Well, I was at the city council meeting that they were at, going back to some of Jolene's comments, and in one aspect I agree with Jolene. I did not also catch that the general plan allowed that to be R1 at some point. But, one of the things that, the city council in general went down the avenue of, we'd really like this to be industrial, we'd really like this to be commercial, but for the last 20 years, nobody stepped to the plate to put in commercial or industrial. And at some point, the owner of the land, for whatever reason, has to do something with it if they don't want to sit on it. And what are you going to do? And tell them, no, I'm sorry, it's just going to continue to be commercial. I agree that light industrial and commercial would be ideal. But at what point how long do we have to let it sit there and wait and tell the owner, well, you're SOL because we really want this? I mean,
You got some valid points, but in my 45 years of municipal government, making that commercial and encouraging commercial to go there will distract from the historical district of the downtown. And I've seen it in Hollister, where they come into the shopping center. I've seen it in Gilroy, Morgan Hill, and even San Jose. When I was a young kid going to college, the downtown area suffered because of all of the shopping districts that went out and the downtown decayed. If that went commercial and you got a competing commercial against the historical district, it's going to take away from the thing. The other thing is that you find is that if that's a commercial, who's going to support the commercial to go across that highway to shop?
Yeah.
And it's misdiagnosed. And I know the typical argument that Kara and the girls have said, oh, well, that's going to be artist establishments and stuff like that. The investment in commercial property is not going to invest in incubations of artists, buildings, and cubicles at the high dollar investment in commercial property that's not going to compete against the downtown area.
Can you just hang on real quick?
Yeah.
Can you, it's really, really distracting. It's very distracting. Please. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that when we looked at that general plan, we felt is that we did not want to remove the impacts of commercial development from our historical district. And that was the primary purpose behind it.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think a lot of the feeling of the council was, I mean, good or bad, I think they would have liked to have seen it, but I mean, it has been offered up for that for how long?
Since 1998.
And nobody has come in to do it.
Right. And coupled with the fact is that the Ottoboni across the street in the 1998 general plan was high-density residential, medium-density, and residential in the R1 in the back, all the way to Mission Vineyard. I calculated that at one time and got 247 homes, plus 58 high-density apartments in that block south of the San Juan Hollister Road. Now, that's a specific plan that was there, but that's the capabilities just from a land planner. And I said, oh my God, would we want that much development on the south end?
Yeah. I concur with Roger. I saw this happen in Monterey. When Del Monte Shopping Center was put in, they high-graded all the downtown businesses in Monterey, and it was almost like a ghost town for several years until things started balancing out. So I know that one major project like that can almost destroy a city. And I mean, the thing was they went and actively recruited and brought everybody up the hill, and there just wasn't much down there in downtown Monterey. Sure. Everybody gets one shot.
When Roger talks about what's going to happen across the street perhaps one day in the county, the 250, I know that it's fact because I've been living with that hanging over my mind since I lived on Mission Vineyard. if we have residences in the area that we're talking about tonight, those people, I hope, would join with us to save the property across the street from housing and turn it into an ag preserve clear to Fremont's Peak. So we need to save that side of the highway clear to Fremont's Peak for what we talked about, trails, creeks, anything we can do to save their ag preserve. We need to pursue that idea. That was behind my thinking when I went against the general plan and all of the arguments and chose to think that Christopher Ranch was where we should build, not particularly to where it is now. Although that property of the Mannings was, in my mind, I already was thinking of it as housing, but not across the street. And we could enlist all those 45 homeowners to keep ag across the street.
Thank you. That's the end of the cards?
Yes.
Okay, we'll close up on the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll close the public hearing.
I guess you should have rights to comment on that since it's your project.
I just need a little bit of direction from you on the elevations. If I'm going down the wrong road on these, I need some sort of direction because I am going to be working on this in the next few months, so it comes back to you. I don't want to go off on a tangent that you don't approve of.
Has the public seen these? Does anybody want to look at my copy?
Copies? Anyone want to see this?
Well, you're right about, I'm not a fan of the Tuscan elevation here in San Juan.
Okay.
The bungalow, yes. The farmhouse, yes.
You have craftsmen, you have lots of craftsmen.
Yeah. And a Spanish. I mean, if you look at Creek Bridge, that's what we have, farm, bungalow, cottage, and
These are a little
Spanish.
different, but I like them,
Yeah.
except for the Tuscan.
So Spanish is okay?
No, I didn't. No, I'm also in agreement with Vanda.
I think one of the best put together variation settings I've seen is probably Creek Bridge.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with Creek Bridge, in that there's only like 6 different designs, but put in different orientations and such, and when you
And
go,
then, 2-story, 1-story.
right. I mean, these are all nice. Some of them look like just different variations of each other.
But that's what Creek Bridge did. The 1-story house, the farmhouse, has the same floor plan as the stucco house, but they look very different. But inside, they're almost the same.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I still like the idea of Creek Bridge is fine. I live right next door to it. I'm happy with it. But I like the variations here. I mean, they're close to Creek Bridge. They're not that far removed. But I like the variety of the changes. And I think that in developing this area, you want to develop a mood to it as well, that people can call it, a place to go to, rather than, hey, we're all living in Creek Bridge.
Or not like, oh, I saw this development in San Jose and Santa Clara.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, yeah. That's what I like. I like the variety of it. I like the closeness to what we have in town.
Yeah. And I think you've expressed the idea that because we're San Juan, that the Spanish and the Mission look could be integrated into some of the architecture to show that it's part of San Juan.
Mm-hmm.
But not the Tuscan, I got it.
Yes,
Because
distinct style.
Even Liao took the San Juan in, and he did somewhat of a modification to give it more of a Mission look.
Now, I'm surprised he's not here. Have you heard anything from him about this? Or
No.
Would he have gotten noticed?
Yeah.
He would have
Adjacent
received
property
it.
owner.
Yeah, he would have
Directly adjacent.
Even if it's still in the county, he would have gotten noticed.
By law,
Everybody within
300
300 feet,
Regardless of whether they're in or
regardless
out
of the
of-
county
Okay.
or the city.
And I just want to add one more thing real
Sure.
quickly. There are 3 historical reports on the property. 2 were done by Caltrans, and the last was done by the report that's actually by archaeologists, historical archaeologists, and it's included in the mitigated neg deck. And so that's available for the public if Roger puts it online so that they'll be able to read it. So there was a lot of money that was put into that report and thought. And I think that was it, unless you had anything else for me.
What have you thought about the monument, the train monument?
It's staying because it's on the Manning property.
It'll be on
retaining.
that piece that will remain under Kathleen Manning.
So she's keeping it indefinitely?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and I wanted to say something about the barn. In the purchase contract, the Mannings have always said that they have the option to remove that barn and build it elsewhere, and so that's fine with us.
Okay.
Does it still needs to be evaluated before that can happen, correct?
We'll take a look.
Whether it's worthy of movement.
We don't think it is worthy of actual moving. It'll have to be taken apart board by board.
No, I
mean, not like put a trailer hitch in the back of it and, right.
Yeah.
You're not going to put it on a truck and move it.
Right.
It's not going to last.
So
No,
those,
but it still needs to be evaluated by a state historian. I mean, what Cara was asking for, I mean, that still needs to happen regardless of what happens to
There are 3
it.
historical reports that have been done, and the
Okay.
most recent one is included.
Okay.
and are those in the negative declarations you said?
Pardon?
In what documents are those contained?
It's an appendix to the mitigated neg
It's one of
deck.
the
It's a
3
report.
emails.
Okay.
Oh, that
The
must
first
have
or second.
Along
that's
with the
page
traffic report, and the noise
937. You
report,
maybe you
and the
missed
greenhouse
it.
gas report. They're all there.
I think I read that too, yeah.
Okay,
And
thank
if
you.
you'd like, at the May meeting, I can certainly have the traffic consultant here, so you can talk to him about
That
it's
would
the
be-
same traffic consultant that was used on the ARCO station.
Good.
Okay.
You would
be good.
understand everything.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Is there a need for a site visit? Recent site
You know,
visit?
it wouldn't hurt because I have a hard time visualizing where one thing ends and when another begins.
Would that be within your purview to set up a site visit for the commission? And I guess it would include anybody who's interested because it's a Brown Act thing.
If you're going to walk the site, it's going to be a little rough because the weeds are pretty high right now. You're going to
Even
need,
just from the street.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can definitely, if you want me to be there, I can certainly be there. And you can meet there on the site. We don't have access to the Manning parcel. There's a tenant on there, and so I can't get you into that, but I can certainly, the city owns the key to the gate on the easterly section. We can walk in on the road that serves the pump station if you'd like. But to
So
walk
if we
the
rented a
site-
monster truck, you're cool with that?
Yeah, right. But to walk the actual site yourself, it's a little bit rough.
You said the houses that are there are staying?
Yes,
All of the houses that are there?
yes.
You see the map, the lower left-hand corner.
However, the street improvements will be extended across the frontage of that to connect to the curb and gutter and sidewalk of the Hacienda de Leal to maintain pedestrian continuity.
Right now, if you look at the section on that page in the lower left-hand corner, that's a section that shows you the street section along San Juan Hollister Highway, and there's a separated sidewalk. So there's a 6-foot planting strip, then a 4-foot sidewalk, and then the PUE after that. So we felt that the monolithic sidewalk that's on the front of the both the hotel and ARCO station right now was really not adequate safety enough for the children. So that's why we put in the 6-foot parking strip and the sidewalk behind that.
Okay. Thank you.
So yes, just let me know if you'd like to meet out there, and I will certainly make myself available.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any follow-up comments before we close this one?
I would like a site visit.
Okay. We'll work on that with staff then. So we'll just continue that item?
Yeah, everybody get together and let me know what's a convenient day, and I can touch base with Kathy, and we can certainly set that up.
Okay.
I appreciate everybody's comments too tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's good also for the developers.
And I think that was the purpose of it, putting it this way. And I didn't want to force anybody to approve anything. I wanted input so that we could take this document and then edit it and change it so that it meets the need.
Okay, thank you. Now we got some action items. Consider a resolution approving changes to the Planning Commission bylaws, which we have received. Gone through these. We can do this annually, so in case something comes up. They haven't been done for some time. So,
I threw that resolution together quickly. If you don't like the wording, let me know. I said that it was
Which one is this?
some of the changes are
This
not
is the
substantive,
bylaws.
that might not have been
Oh,
right.
yeah. Oh, yes.
all your changes are in yellow?
No, on the resolution itself.
Oh, the resolution
Yeah,
itself.
I will
Oh.
remove the yellow highlight because we've accepted that.
But that was your changes.
Those are the changes.
Oh, okay.
Discussed in the past.
Did we have any changes on this at our special meeting?
I don't think that was on the agenda for discussion.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
On item 10,
Item 10.
Item.
I
Quorum.
had written, a commissioner abstaining from participation because of a conflict of interest shall, as determined by the state law is what I wrote in.
Oh,
But it-
yeah, you're right, you did.
That's right, that was mine.
But it's not, wasn't incorporated.
I actually would feel a little more comfortable if I found my notes from that meeting before we
Okay.
send this.
Okay,
Okay.
let's continue it.
Yeah, if we could.
It's ours, so no one else
Okay.
is being affected.
Okay.
So we'll look for action, final action. So what we're doing here is clearing the calendar. Okay, consider public structure and residential structure to recognize during Preservation Month. You want to, for the record, you want to summarize some historical
At
resources?
the
board?
Historic Resources Board meeting, we recommended that the Glad Tidings Church be nominated for the public building, and that 1111 First Street be nominated for the residential building.
Okay, would that be your nomination? Your
Is
motion?
that a consensus or what?
Yeah.
Well, now
Oh, no.
we're going to vote on it.
All right, I move to
Oh.
approve that we accept both those buildings for the National Preservation Month to be awarded in May,
To be recognized.
to be recognized in
award.
May.
Any comments from the commission before we go any further?
Award.
Second.
No? Okay. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak on these two promotions, recommendations? None? Okay, we'll accept the motion for action.
Okay.
Okay. Prior to the public hearing, made a motion to accept the public and the residential buildings, recognize them for the effort they made toward maintaining our city in a, we want to go to San Juan mode. So, is there a second to that motion? We have a second. We'll call for a vote on this.
You
Aye.
were first.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Sure.
Commissioner Cabear,
Aye.
Commissioner Maderas,
Aye.
Commissioner Grandstaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Coe,
Aye.
Chairman Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission be present. The motion is stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now, item C, consider approval of historic downtown streetscape guidelines. Want to report to the historical review board?
Okay, at the Historical Resources Board, we approved the final draft of the historic downtown streetscape guidelines, and we determined that they belong in the design guidelines as item 6. And I move to approve that for Planning Commission.
I'll second
Okay.
that. We should probably have public discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment on the historic downtown streetscape guidelines? There being no one in the public to speak, we'll close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to the commission You have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Yes.
And there's a second.
Before you go there is that the first one could be in conflict with a lot of the authorities and delegations that the city manager has in terms of striping, curb, sidewalks, signage, stop signs, no U-turns, and those are all authorized in the code as the city managers and the traffic engineers and city engineers' obligation. Those are safety improvements. And sometimes you have to, I'll do my best to keep you guys informed, but there are sometimes improvements and things that we have to go in and act immediately, and you're not going to be advised of that in the construction.
I think, wasn't there the provision that emergency situations were...
A good example of this is I had to take that tree down at the corner of McCollum, because it was ready to fall. And we had to act upon that in a very quick manner. It was good safety.
I thought there was a provision in there for that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I don't know what I did.
Do we need to send this back to the Historic Resources Board and tell them to tidy up their document before sending it to us? Seriously.
We have a talk with them.
Those guys.
You got to watch those people, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's not good, is it?
It says where possible. Is it about the colors we're talking?
No, I think it was...
The signage?
I remember there being, I forget whether we wrote it or something, but we all just, because I brought this up at the special meeting, and we had decided that in emergencies or where possibles, I think it might have just been simply the where possibles was the, if you're going to
the extent possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be painting stripes and you're not going to be painting stripes and it wasn't because you had to do an emergency street repair, then hold off on the stripes
You
until
got
it
one
can come to
stat that
us.
replace existing approved components in kind. That's on page 4, the last sentence of the first paragraph.
Which one? Which number?
I didn't get
page
the handout.
4.
Yeah.
The first paragraph,
Just
the last line is staff may
Section B.
replace existing
I know, but I can't find the paper.
approved
Okay.
components
I mean,
in
I
kind.
just completely lost it in several different bubbles. Found it.
Yeah, I found mine too. But I still don't know the answer.
But I remember discussing this.
Well, we didn't think that,
You remember discussing it?
Yeah.
I just don't remember how we...
we didn't think that there would be that much that would be
It's
urgent.
almost automatic, you know.
And if it is urgent,
It's got to be done.
yeah.
You do what you do and you make the best judgment and we yell at you later about it.
Yeah.
It did. The 14 indicate that all windows will be wood and painted, but there are some windows down there when I walk through that are not wood. And if they have to be changed...
We don't have line numbers anymore on our document. What heading are you looking
We
at?
had the final.
indicate that all windows be wood and painted, and there are a number of establishments down there that have anodized bronze metal framing in the windows.
I don't think we have anything about windows.
Yeah, I don't know anything about windows.
I actually, again, I'd have to go back to my notes, and I don't know whether we had added another line in regards to.
It would be right.
It would be in this, somewhere in there that just said something in regards to, imminent repair or something of that sort
For health and safety.
for health and safety reasons, because I remember discussing this at length.
Emergency and health and safety, that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I remember something too, but I just can't remember how
I'd have to find my notes, man. I hate to keep pushing this out, but I
The other
really...
one that I'm concerned with is architectural drawings, and you want it at a quarter scale. And I got to think is that when the Washington Street came, the size of that thing, that it was not at a quarter scale. He had to go to a smaller 3/16 or an 8 scale.
I don't know that we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah, there's nothing about a quarter scale on here. There's nothing about windows on here.
These were the board policies.
Oh, no. No, that's,
Oh.
yeah.
Completely run the streetscape one.
Where is it at,
What did we decide to do the board policies? We're
Send one
continuing
down.
that.
We're continuing that one. But I do remember very specifically, and I wish I didn't bring my...
Well, let's continue.
Okay.
Why don't we
Yeah.
continue it?
Find your notes.
And I'll
look for-
find my notes, and I'll
Yeah.
send an email to Rudy.
And if you
that
don't
way
find your
Rudy
notes,
can
then
distribute.
draft something that he feels.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you work with Rudy and draft something that we're looking for. Public
Okay.
health, safety, and emergencies.
Yep, okay. Easy enough.
Okay.
You all over it, Rudy? Oh, you're waiting for me to get all over it. Got it.
Okay. Discussion items. Review the existing fencing regulations in the Muni Code design guidelines.
We haven't had a chance.
We haven't done any...
We haven't
Okay.
come, yeah.
May need to hand this off.
We'll continue that one again. Harvey's lockup update.
Pass that down there and everything. If
Okay.
you recall, I talked with Harvey, and we felt that there was 5 driveways that were going to go in off of Church Street. And I think we discussed informally that could a roll curb and gutter on the second page, where I kind of outlined what it would look like, so that that driveway of the 5, and then it wouldn't be curb cuts every several feet. And you can see where the driveways are located in the little diagram here. And if you have normal driveways and at the bottom of the driveway, then there is a 2-foot transition that goes back up, and then you drop down to a 2-foot in. So now you're going to have a curb and gutter that's going to go up and down. So the roll curb and gutter would be very suitable for all of those driveways that are going to go in there.
All on that whole length there.
Yeah.
Huh?
And
That whole length, yeah.
they need all those driveways, huh?
Yeah, at least 3 of them that I know for sure, that have access. 1, 2, 3.
That makes it a neater project.
I think just for aesthetics,
Yeah.
you'd do the whole thing, and I think given that weird area, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right. And he was agreeable. I met with him today and a couple of weeks ago, and I told him, and he's all set. If the commission grants him the roll curb and gutter, then he's all set to commence upon that. I think after this last rainstorm here, he doesn't want to open it up until we ensure that it's...
Actually, we're supposed to get more rain the end of this week. I
Then
think.
this weekend,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. He's talking about maybe the end of April, 1st of May, sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Sounds good.
Okay, comments and reports. Commissioners, any comments or reports?
I do actually have a statement.
Do you have a statement?
I do.
Take it.
This kind of comes directly down from some issues that came down on social media. I want to encourage everybody who wants to be involved to get involved and join the meetings at City Council, at Planning Commission, Strategic Plan, and Neighborhood Watch. Social media definitely has its place, but getting important information about the town on these sites should be taken with absolute caution. Anyone who has any concern on any item that comes to the Planning Commission, City Council, or the City Council agenda should show up to those meetings and have their voices heard. If you cannot attend these meetings, I encourage you to write a letter that can be read at those meetings. complaining after the fact does not solve anything. Being involved and showing up so that your voices can be heard to those who can help make that difference is the proper way to make that happen.
Very good.
Thank you.
I agree. I'll second that motion.
I'll second it, yeah. I'll vote for it.
I've always
Commissioner Coe,
thought about that as well.
no comments? Nope. You're overwhelmed, I can tell.
No.
Mr. Maderas.
Oh, I keep thinking about Save the Barn. The barn, the Manning barn, that's keeps cropping in my head. That it'd be nice to find a good home for it, if not there. I like the idea of a farmer's market. That's a good idea. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I
thank everybody for being here. I thank commissioners.
You want to report on tomorrow night's meeting?
Further welcome, huh?
You want to report on tomorrow night's meeting for the public? The restoration meeting?
Oh, yeah. Again, I encourage anybody who's interested in what's happening with the Mission San Juan Bautista that there's going to be an open house town hall meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the Teaching Center. On behalf of that, if anybody's got any questions, any ideas, would like to join the committee, we're more than welcome to be there tomorrow night. And the library.
The library is having a mixer with the San Juan Committee tomorrow at 5?
5 o'clock. That's what I heard.
Thank you, David, for all the photographs you took.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great.
My pleasure.
A great way to capture what it looks like today.
The essence of San Juan.
The essence of San Juan.
The significant importance of historical San Juan.
Do you know, I had a project where they were adding to a Russian complex, Russian Orthodox Church, and somebody wanted to do an addition to it. And so they said, okay, well, it's got to be Russian architecture. And what's Russian architecture? And he comes up with this thick book, and apparently it is considered the official thing. If it's in this book, that's considered Russian architecture. You could do San Juan architecture. What's here, and you've done 100 of them so far.
Well, we can have a design guideline.
Lots of designs
Not
to
yet.
choose from.
But now we got to see, what does this really look like? What does it mean? What is a bungalow? And there you've got a bungalow. And then what is a craftsman? There's a
What's
craftsman.
a craftsman?
Yeah.
What
And
is
you
a
don't want
house?
Tuscane.
So anyway, I just kept thinking, where to take your pictures, and I thought that was one step in the right direction for this. Okay, Commissioner Gubeck.
I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Okay. The 23rd and the 24th of April at the Community Center, the Monterey Bay Area Cactus and Succulent Society is going to have a show and sale. It's in one of our city buildings here. If you haven't been to one, this is something to see. It's exotics that you won't see anyplace else. And since it is a show as well as a sale, there'll be judged items, and people bring out the best they have to be judged. And I urge you to, if you're interested in cacti and succulents, I urge you to attend.
Sounds like a prickly situation.
Yeah, prickly situation. You got it. Okay. Now we have city manager.
Just to let you know, arts and crafts this weekend. Jason Williams will have his art and crafts. He's not going to have as many as booth because it's competing with another arts and crafts that's going on in the peninsula. So,
That's good old days in Pacific Grove.
Yeah, Pacific Grove, yeah. The San Juan Committee, Vanda was there, and we discussed the branding. Excellent presentation by Kathy Shipper and her team. And then they got into a logo and had some good graphics of potential logos for us and stuff like that. They will be developing those, and then we're going to have some more meetings and come back and have more citizen input for it. So
good.
It's coming along good. Yeah.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy. Okay. Strategic Planning Committee report.
I didn't bring my notes, but I know one of the big things that was kind of cool is that there's been a bit of discussion about bringing a bank into town again. And
maybe we could start one.
So that is something I know that the town has been without now for, what, 2 years, a little over 2 years?
least,
And I know it's something that is, you know, it's discussed a lot about how just the merchants in town have to go to Hollister, but it was brought up that the farmers in town also have to spend time out of their day to run the town on a daily basis. We were being told that one farmer was spending an hour plus each day just to go to the bank and come back, and an hour a day times 5 or 6 or 7 days a week some of those guys are working, times how many days, it's costing those people a lot of money. So I think it would be really important that we in general, everybody, really needs to work together on trying to figure out how to get a bank here. There are people in the strategic plan. I don't know if it's been brought to Roger's attention yet, but we really need to entertain how to bring another financial institution into this town, and make sure it's in an area that gets enough traffic that it's safer. Suggestion was Windmill Market area, just because there's a lot more foot traffic
There had been a bank there at one time.
Yeah. But I think that is, I know since I've been here, we didn't have a bank for more than a couple months since when I moved in, when it was robbed and then eventually closed. So other than that, all my notes are sitting, who knows?
With all your other notes.
All my other notes, yes.
They're in a safe place, I'm sure.
Okay, good.
Okay, with no further business, Chair entertains a motion for adjournment.
Second.
I make the motion.
Anybody opposing? We'll take it. 9:12.